28.
And we are live on episode 66 of the Red Man Group. I'm your host and moderator, Donovan Sharp. We are presented in part by the 21 convention in Poland from July 18th to July 21st. 21 Con is headed to Warsaw, Poland. Buy your tickets now to get massive discounts. You can also get tickets to October's event in Orlando and get huge discounts as well. So buy now, guys, because the longer you wait, the less you save. Today's topic is about the game on hard mode. In other words, being in a long-term relationship, or dare I say a marriage, makes sticking to your red pill conditioning much more difficult. We're going to give you guys plenty of examples. But before we get to that, let us introduce today's panel. First up is founder of 4th R Consulting, Ryan Stone, at _Ryan_Stone is where he can be found on Twitter. He's also on Facebook and Instagram. Subscribe to his YouTube channel and bookmark his website, ryanstone.com. There you can find his exclusive content, including his latest post, Playboys, Alpha Males, and Real Men, Manipulative Container Words. It's actually a very good read. I read it this morning. Make sure you support him on Patreon as well. Just search Ryan Stone. Next is a man who is either CIA, KGB, or maybe a hot dog vendor on Madison Avenue in New York City. Carl Black Label Logic, at Black Label Logic is where you can find him on Twitter. And make sure you bookmark his blog, blacklabellogic.com, where you can find his latest post of criticism and complaints and the red pill. Asian Ass Avenger, Jonathan of modernlifedating.com is also on today's panel. Follow him on Twitter, at modernlifejon, and on Instagram, search Modern Life Dating. modernlifedating.com is where you can find his content like Triple Your Tinder. Tune in for his daily show, Interview with a Man, weekday mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern on his YouTube channel. Make sure to enroll in his body language mastery course. The dates are in the chat. Go to modernlifedating.com/body language course for more information. The godfather of the manosphere himself, Rollo Tomasi, is in the house as always. He is the author of the revolutionary book series that includes The Rational Male, Preventative Medicine, and Positive Masculinity. At Rational Male is where you can find him on Twitter. Subscribe to his YouTube channel and be sure to catch him on the Pat Campbell Show every Friday morning at 9:05 Eastern on Talk Radio 1170 in Tulsa. Rollo also makes regular appearances on The Red Line, the all call-in show every Friday night at 8 Eastern. Be sure to check out Rollo's latest post entitled False Positives, which was the topic from last week's Red Man Group. Last but not least is the guy who cannot control his temper and is probably emotionally immature. Yours truly, Donovan Sharp. You guys can find my content on donovansharp.com, YouTube, and Twitter. I'm on the air Tuesday through Thursday afternoons at 1 Eastern on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to my Patreon, where I release exclusive content daily that cannot be found anywhere else. Guys, it is good to have you on this morning.
Hey, it's going to be awesome, man.
Yes, sir. All right, well, let's
I was going to go straight to the topic. You're cool with that?
Oh, you don't want it? Oh, okay. So Ryan's looking at the chat.
We can take care of housekeeping afterwards.
Yeah, we can do all that. So today we're going to discuss the game on hard mode. And the reason for today's topic is that over the years, we have noticed a fair amount of men who are hardcore red pill. They've got blogs, they've got YouTube channels, and all the rest of that. What inevitably happens is that they get a lot more female attention because A, women want to be around men who have their shit together, and B, when they see other females flocking to XYZ red pill guy, that compounds that female attention. And that, of course, is the concept of pre-selection. Now, at some point, a woman stands out above the rest. Maybe she's young and hot, wants a relationship with him. Maybe she elevates his life, or maybe she exhibits the traits of what he believes is a quality woman. Whatever the case may be, guys, these red pill guys get plenty of opportunities with women, and at some point, he might decide to lock her down, which is perfectly fine. Now, I've been on record many times advocating that even though the player life is great, for me, being in a relationship is a better life, at least as far as I'm concerned. What we see happen from time to time, actually time and again now, we're seeing it more often, is that red pill guys who get into long-term relationships, they start to change their tune. And little by little, you can see the metamorphosis happening in their messages and their content. They start to lean a little bit toward the blue side. Now, it doesn't all happen in one fell swoop, right? It's sort of a gradual process. And before we know it, red pill guy has abandoned a lot of his red pill core principles that got him to where he was in the first place. When that happens, these guys start to push back against guys like us who remain steadfast in our red pill beliefs. And you can see this happening on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and every other medium there is. So I'd like to start with Ryan here because this is idea. Why do guys abandon the principles and strategies that made them successful when they get into a relationship with a woman?
It's because they aren't following John's body language course, June 28th to July 2nd, link in the description. But no, seriously, it was actually Carl and I, our first red morning, and we were talking about, you know, the old trope that long-term relationships are game on hard mode. And then Carl and I had a discussion about it, and he got me thinking, and I would love to pass it off to hear your guys' thoughts on this, where we were going through the extra work that I have to do versus he have to do. And it was pretty much the same. Like all the stuff, the building of his frame, dealing with things. The only difference was it was easier for him. Like if he was sick and he didn't want to have to deal with shit tests that day, he would just not call the girl up. Where in my case, like if I'm showing a little bit of weakness, my girl will probably jump on me there, which is fine. That's what they do.
Right.
But the end conclusion was that the game doesn't really change. And how you were talking, leveraging off what you were talking, how a lot of guys, they find a girl or God. I call them the sun hat gods. They find their sun hat god, and then all of a sudden their frame completely changes. So it makes you wonder, like, did they really have a frame? Or were they just angry that they couldn't get their little woman of Willendorf? If you guys don't know what that is, that's a sculpture from like 20,000 BC, where it was just a female figure. It's the oldest art that's in existence, and they assumed that was the original god, was the mother of birthing things. But I was curious on your guys' thoughts on this, because everybody on this panel has slung it really well in a relationship and as they were single. So I'm curious what you guys thought, if there was any difference between it. Because I haven't seen any of you guys switch and start finding some random reframing of your life around a girl. So I'll leave it there.
Yeah, that's a very good question. Rollo, what about you? I mean, the unique thing about Rollo is that when you became Rollo Tomasi, you were already married.
Right.
So you didn't really go through any sort of change. You kind of transitioned into your red pill life while you were married. Right. I would venture to say maybe you fall into the category awakened while married. I don't know if that could apply to the great Rollo Tomasi, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I would say that. A lot of people ask me this question because most guys go through some sort of trauma when they were red pilled. I hate even using that term as a verb because I don't really consider red pilling somebody to, it's just bullshit to me. But, changing the direction of your life, changing your way of thinking, changing your mind about yourself is, for most guys, it's as the result of some kind of trauma, and usually that's a breakup. And usually it's like maybe they got suicidal, maybe something happened to them. But for me, and for I think a lot of guys who are already married, it becomes sort of this gradual process, and you have to see it going on in your life, and you have to deal with a lot of denial and refusal to accept pretty much the information and all of the signs and everything that anybody's telling you, that if somebody's trying to make you aware of the matrix, right, and you don't want to be aware of that, you sort of like, put blinders on. You're like, no, I'm not, but yeah, la, I'm not gonna listen to this kind of stuff. But that's part of the process. I think for some guys, it's not quite so in their face. And usually guys who are awakened while married, this is what happens, because they want to think the best of their wives because they made a decision and it's part of their life course to sort of live with that decision. But then when a guy like Rollo Tomasi comes along and he says, hey, read this book and it'll change your mind about the way you think about things between, men and women, they have a hard time with that because it's a gradual process. It's not like this explosion of ideas. And for some people it's like that, but like for a lot of guys, particularly married guys, it's a slow kind of gradual, like, oh yeah, he's right about that, or oh yeah, here's another example of that. And you see it going on in your own reality, and eventually you become more red pilled, I guess. For me, it was a little bit different. When I was in my BPD relationship, that was my moment, I think, of trauma. But like, you couldn't tell me jack shit back then. Anybody who would have known me back then would have been like, oh man, they would have gave up on me. A lot of guys, a lot of my friends, even my brother just basically gave up on me because they thought that I was just a hopeless case with this chick, right? And so fortunately, I got out of that, and it made me who I am. Part of that made me who I am. And so there was that aspect of it. Then I met my wife, who expected me to be, an alpha male. She expected me to drive the car. She expected me to make decisions as a guy, because if she was going to be with me in the long term, I was the one who was going to have to be in the driver's seat and be the head of the family, right? Because that's just the way she was, and I'd never met anybody like that. So that kind of changed my opinion of myself, because up until that point, I was trying to play like everybody else does. I was trying to play like egalitarian, mayor. Oh, we're all going to be 50-50. I don't want to be above you and you don't want to be above me. Well, you know what my wife said? Bullshit. You need to be above me. That's what and that kind of rocked my world, because for a long time I believed the same lies that I fight against right now. So like when I get all pissy with like MRAs or something, and I say, you know what, the fundamental reason why I can't sit in the same room as an MRA is because their fundamental beliefs are in blue pill idealism. It's that blue pill egalitarian bullshit. And people say, well, not all MRAs are made the same. Well, okay, fine. But the basic core understanding is that they're trying to be perfected feminists because they believe in that egalitarianism. And I believed in that too. And so it was a process for me to sort of dissociate myself from that egalitarian, equalist, blank slate bullshit, because I would have believed, if you'd have known me back when I was in my mid to late 20s, I was as blue pill as they came, man. I believed all this crap. And so gradually I sort of unplugged myself, and with certain reading, like I read 48 Laws of Power. I read a really good book by Dr. Warren Farrell called Why Men Are the Way They Are. And he wrote that back in the 80s. That he published that back in 1986, the year I graduated from high school. He published Why Men Are the Way They Are. And I read that, and that really was my first kind of shock to my system, because I read that when I was in my relationship with my BPD girlfriend. And that was, I have my differences with Dr. Farrell, but I do credit him with that. It was the first instance of me ever like thinking about women in a different way, and what it is that maybe that wasn't even his intent with that book, but that's the way I took it. And so I went from being, my rock star 20s. When I was in my early 20s, I was playing in the Hollywood metal scene, and I was, people say, well, Rollo Tomasi's a man whore because he had sex with 40 plus women. Yeah, well, most of those came from when I was between the ages of 17 and about 24 years old. And then a little bit after that, after my BPD girlfriend, because I was locked in, man. I wouldn't dare cheat on her. Even though I wanted to, I wouldn't do that. But back in the day, prior to me meeting her, I was very much alpha. I was very much, running game, but it was the game that worked for me. I was domain dependent on what it was that I was doing. So I can speak to a lot of different things. I can speak to running game on girls. I can speak to having been alpha. I can speak to having been sort of this nerdy beta kid in high school. I can speak to being, this completely defeated, almost omega guy when I was in my BPD phase. And then going to where I am right now, which is, according to like Vox Day or Chateau Artiste, I'm more of a lesser alpha right now. And because I have transitioned and sort of shed my skin in a lot of different ways. And so I've gone from being, player to being, what I think a lot of people would assume is a successful marriage. I've been married. It's coming up on 23 years. My wife's still very sexy. We're still very much in love with each other. We still have a lot of fun together. We've made it work. It's not even been work, really. It's been sort of effortless because we know what is expected from one another, and we play those roles, and that's just what we do, because it's not even like we're not even like thinking about we're going to consider the relationship. If I was to go up to my wife right now and I said, where are we at in our relationship right now? She'd look at me like I was fucking crazy, man. With that fucking, Oprah, where are we at in our relationship? Let's analyze where no, because we're doing fine. We're doing good. We don't even think about those kind of things. And like I said, I can count on the fingers of one hand how many times we've actually had a real legitimate fight in 23 years. So I can speak to a lot of things, but there's a transitioning, I think, wherein guys, and I noticed this, and I know that this is kind of the direction I wanted to take the topic here, is that I know that there's a lot of guys who are red pill aware when they're single, and maybe they read my book or they get involved in red pill community, and maybe they apply pickup artistry or whatever. They have like a different attitude about women while they're single. And then the moment they get a girlfriend, the moment they get their freaking dream girl, they revert back to being that blue pill egalitarian equal, believe in all the bullshit lies. And I mean, we're talking some prominent red pill guys right now who change their story, and they want to be something different when they're with a chick in a long-term relationship that they weren't before when they were single and red pill. And they have a really tough time. And then here's the other thing, is that once they lose that chick, they go back to being like, Mr. Red Pill again, and pretty much counteract or contradicting everything that they said while they were with their girlfriend, and they change up their stories. And this is kind of, I want to say that this is kind of damaging particularly for guys who other men consider teachers or gurus or whatever you want to call it, or people that they are impressed with and think that they have something to add to the community. Well, one of the, and this is not the person I'm talking about, but I'm just going to use him as an example here, is Roosh. Roosh, everybody considers Roosh one of the R's of the manosphere. And that's great, but he changes his story so often that it seems legitimate, but then he switches back and he becomes something different. And people will say, "Well, Rollo, isn't that just like normal human nature? We sort of change and shift with the times." And yeah, I get that, but were they really ever legitimate in what they were talking about prior to getting a chick? Because once you get that girlfriend, once you get that wife, once your old lifestyle is having trouble reconciling itself with your new lifestyle, you change your tune, you change something about yourself, you change something about what you're telling guys. And so suddenly it's like, women aren't just, women are hypergamous, when you're red pill. And then when you get into a long-term relationship, well, not all women are hypergamous. All women are not. You guys are just too strict, or this is like a cult, or you guys, this is ideology. This is ideological purity. Yada yada yada. They break
high
up.
IQ quality.
They break up with the chick. Yeah, they break up with the chick, and they're back to, man, I can't believe I ever thought that. Oh my gosh, yeah, women are all hypergamous. And it's. So when you're seeing that, and I don't think guys really understand this in the long term, because you're only listening to what they say at a moment in time. So when they get into a relationship and they say, you know what, I have to change the way I think about women because I need to in some way reconcile what I used to think with how I think now, that I think sends conflicting messages to guys, and it doesn't help that it's not objective, it's subjective. It's subjective to whatever the experiences that they're going through are at that time. So like when you were saying, I'll just put a point on this, is what you're saying about me, like, well, weren't you awakened while married? Well, yes and no, because like I said, I went through a stage where I was very much a player and very much alpha and very much, nailing chicks at clubs and stuff. It wasn't really formal game because this was long before all of that. But then I moved into a different lifestyle. And when I started writing about this, people want to know what my red pill moment was. It was when my brother-in-law hung himself, and seeing that, man, and dealing with that, and then dealing with chicks afterwards who were trying to justify the actions of my sister-in-law, who basically, was going to divorce this guy who had done pretty much everything right, had played by the old social contract, and then decided she wanted to run off and marry a millionaire. And then that was bad enough. But what you want to know what the red pill point was when women who didn't even know her were defending her actions. We're saying, well, she was already over him, and what's she supposed to do? She can't move on with her life. And that pretty much woke me up to how the sisterhood works, how hypergamy works, and how hypergamy is the prime directive of women. And like I said, women who didn't even know my sister-in-law were taking her side, because that is female nature, is to back up women's hypergamous choices. And then if you go and you extrapolate that to the political and the social and stuff like that, then you have a larger understanding of it. So all of this happened while I was married. And so when I saw all this, I had to say, you know what, I need to say something about this. I need to do something about this. I need to make guys aware of this kind of stuff, because I don't want to see guys put a noose around their neck and hang themselves from a tree because they believe in the old social contract, and they believed in one-itis, and they believed in the soulmate myth, and they build a life around that. And so when guys get zeroed out, and they do, and that you people want to know why the highest demographic of suicide is men who are between, like, say 45 and 60 or somewhere around there, because they're getting zeroed out, and that's the prime area for men who pretty much committed their entire lives to the old social contract, and believing that if they invested enough and had enough relational equity, that they were going to live happily ever after and go retire in Florida and play golf, and their wives will be happy with them. And that's
Zero Dad just had a post on that, actually, where he had to go to a friend just lost a child, like a stillborn or something like that, and he had to go to the funeral.
God damn, are you serious?
Yeah, it's a great thread. It said exactly what you're saying right now, man, where he got there and every girl just went up and completely, like, brutal. Like, they thought they were just saying nice things, but it was to make them feel good at the expense of the mom, talking about how motherhood is the greatest thing and how they're so blessed to have their kids. Meanwhile, like, there's this chick that just lost her baby. Like, it was the most callous thing I've ever seen. But it's exactly what Rollo was saying. I just figure if you guys haven't seen it, Real Zero Dad's in the chat. If he puts a link to it, guys, you should really check it out.
RZD.
Yeah. So anyways, well, just to end a very long story here, is like a lot of that sort of changed me as to being like turning myself into Rollo Tomasi, and turning myself, because I think I live a pretty unique life. I have experiences that I can talk about a lot of things. I can talk about raising a daughter. I can talk about being a married guy. I can talk about working with beautiful women. I can talk about being a player in my 20s. There's a lot of things that I can talk about, but I've always tried in every post I've ever made, every book I've ever written, to be as objective as I possibly can. And I know that it's impossible to be entirely objective. I get that. You don't have to tell me. But all of the stuff that I write about was after I was already married, and I had a lot of this experience that I wanted to relate, so I could help guys from keeping the noose from around their necks. And I think that I have a unique aspect to this, because people say, well, Rollo, you're in a marriage, so obviously your opinions or what you write about is going to be colored with the fact that you're married. Well, yes and no, because I'm still relating stuff that happened to me prior to all this, but I'm also, like I said, I have a commitment to truth. I have an obligation to objective truth, and I think that comes out in my writing. But I don't know. It's weird, because, like, say, for example, I'm not going to tell you right now that my writing style wouldn't change if I got divorced tomorrow. So maybe it would. Maybe that's just part of the game. But I like to think that it's not impossible to transition from a red pill lifestyle, from being a red pill single guy to being a red pill married guy, if that's what you choose to do. Most guys aren't going to do that, because they just, the juice ain't worth the squeeze, man. I do agree with that aspect of MGTOW. I think that, a lot of guys are going to make that decision and say, you know what, I'm just never going to get into an LTR. I'm just going to nail chicks and live happily ever after. Okay, fine. But you're not going to be able to speak to the same dynamics that somebody like I am, or somebody who's in a relationship is going to. And so I'm kind of glad you brought this up as a topic, Ryan, because it's a very poignant topic, because we see a lot of guys. They start off as Captain Red Pill, and then they get with a female, and all of a sudden they abandon what made them successful. Let's go to Carl here, because Carl you are Captain Red Pill, right? And so no, he really is. Like, this guy has like spreadsheets
on like different chicks he's banged. Okay, it took this girl, 15 minutes to come. I didn't blow my load with this girl, and I'm eating. He's got like all these statistics. But how does the chemistry change in your opinion? Not that this would ever happen to you, but how does the chemistry change when a man goes from having 0 fucks for a woman to having more than 0 fucks for a woman?
Well, first off, Donna, before I go into the topic, I just want to thank you for airing out my business in public. I told you about that hot dog cart in confidence, for fuck's sake.
Fucking Carl, man. Oh my God.
Like, we all discussed this whole transition between alpha and beta and, comfort versus attraction.
Right. Yes. That's exactly right.
And attraction, to some extent, it requires conflict and tension, because you have to make the other person uncomfortable in order for that tension to materialize.
Right.
Then once you move into a relationship, it's more cooperation and relaxation. So you have to be more comfort building, and that kind of allows you to let yourself go a bit, because you don't have to kind of be on the edge and keep the girl on the edge with that tension all the time. So you let yourself go in other ways as well. And then you get to a point where you start to develop strong feels for the girl and you want to keep her around. And you start to feel guilty when you're doing these things that make her uncomfortable. But in your deepest red pill heart that this is what you should be doing, but it also makes you emotionally uncomfortable to do so. So you kind of become a beta by 1,000 concessions, because instead of doing the hard thing, you do the easy thing just to kind of not be the bad guy in your own story. And then what happens is, over time, you kind of need justification for why you're doing it, because that, okay, I shouldn't be doing everything she says. And I should be putting her in her place. And, I should be calling the shots. But you don't want to be the bad guy. So what you do is you go looking for anything that justifies you not doing what you should be doing. So you go find God, or you go find Myers-Briggs, or you go find whatever that will give you the justification to not do what you should be doing. And I think that's just the thing with guys. Like I've said it before, like if I could be 350 pounds, sit around in my house drinking beer, smoking weed, playing PlayStation, and still have girls come over and blow me on a daily basis,
why wouldn't you?
Like I wouldn't be putting the time into the gym and watching what I eat and cutting back on my drinking and stuff if I could just get the same results with women if I was, Jabba the Hutt. So guys kind of let themselves go in relationships for the most part. Like, the guy who gets to the gym 5 days a week, he eats right, he's out biking, etc. Then he gets a girlfriend, and you see suddenly a spare tire appears there, and the girl is like, why don't you have a little ice cream with me? And he's like, okay, if I don't eat any of this stuff and sit here chewing on sugar snap peas while she's eating chocolate, she's going to throw a tantrum about how she's getting so fat and how am I attracted to her. So, what, I'll get fat with her just so I can avoid that tantrum. And the guys stop focusing on the attraction comfort thing, because they know they have to make the girl comfortable in order to make the relationship work. But they also make themselves comfortable, and that becomes their goal, to be comfortable in their misery. It's like the downward spiral of low expectations. So suddenly they're both 300 pounds, and neither of them can stand the idea of having sex because someone has to do actual work. And, then they get sweaty and they're going to have to get out the washing stick, and that's just too much fucking work, man.
Wow. Well said. Let's move to Jonathan of modernlifedating.com / I'm going to do some shilling here for him / body language course. Now, Jonathan, you have a very interesting story about a girl you dated when you lived in Hawaii, right? You had already found, and I think if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong here, you had found the red pill, okay? And that red pill awareness it attracted this woman to you. You got with her, and all of a sudden you started to revert back to your blue pill backsliding, and eventually the shit hit the fan. Is that accurate? If not, correct the record here.
Around 27 is when around 27 spring is when I hit my red pill
stride.
My home run sessions. And so I met this chick that I used to work with. She was the sales district manager, and I was just like some new guy fresh off the boat. in from America. Just got my visa stamp. The ink was still dry on my passport, or still wet on my passport, and basically I had kind of reverted it back into my blue pill way in a certain sense, because I don't think anybody here has ever done it before, but when you pack up everything and you kiss your life goodbye in America and there's no going back, and then you have literally, you've burned the ships and you're trapped in another country, the first couple of months can be very, very lonely and extremely isolating if you don't speak the language. So I had kind of knew this girl was a hoe, right? She had all the symptoms of a hoe. And so we ended up hooking up, and she was moving to Hawaii, because my plan was like, okay, she's moving to Hawaii, so I could just get in, boom, 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 aloha, baby, have a good one, right? And anyways, what happened was we ended up starting to like each other, but I was still doing my thing in Tokyo. She was just the alpha hoe, and there were lesser hoes under her. But anyways, I ended up. This is the story where I talked about where I finally learned, like, it's okay to trust your instinct, and it's okay to use technology to verify your instincts. Like, because I had a feeling that she was doing some shit around behind my back. So I tracked my iPhone on her phone, and then I was watching her, but she said she was at X location, and she really was some guy. And despite catching her, I was still all I caught some feels for her. And I'm just being completely honest. As you guys know, I always keep it 100% honest. So for this situation, I just had a moment of weakness, and then she was like, well, I want to get back together, even though she was like sneaking up with this guy. And I guess I kind of did. I kind of had it coming, because I certainly wasn't, at church, like reading my Bible every Sunday, being a good Christian.
Wait, hold on. That was an actual Bible?
Yeah, my mom gave it to me before I went to Tokyo.
Wow. And it was just so readily available to you right there on the set. That's interesting.
I read you don't watch my show on Sunday. I quote the Bible and do like you don't. Oh, I do a Bible show, man. It's fucking great. Yeah, it's right here on my desk.
I imagine it is.
Oh, dude, the guys love it. The guys love the Bible show. And no, it's Red Pill. I think Rollo calls his show Red Pill Religion. I just call mine, like, I don't know, like Hot Dudes in the Bible. But anyways, yeah, so
hashtag Jesus was a pimp, right?
Yeah, and so she and I wasn't doing my part, but she definitely wasn't doing her part either. But I still ended up moving out there, being with her. But at the end of the day, look, here's the thing. If you're an alpha guy, like, if you're a guy like Donovan, okay, Donovan is reeks of alpha. Steve the Dean, Steve the Dean's game is razor sharp. People like Carl, you guys, once you're as alpha as us, and alpha is a mindset, not saying like an indicator of like, whatever, but like once you're like us, there's no going back to being blue pill. Like, you're this forever. Like, we're unplugged. And so you could have some setbacks, you could have some moments of weakness in your LTR, and that's normal. But at the end of the day, the gangster within, the hot dude within, the alpha within, that guy is in my bones. You cut me, and then this little alpha male blood is gonna bleed out everywhere. This is like who I am. I've internalized this lifestyle. I've made peace with myself, because, in the past I would be like, oh man, I'm fucking such a dog. I can't stay loyal. What's wrong with me? There's something wrong with me. Then finally I was like, I just give up. Like, this is just who I am. This is who I am. Like, we have to accept LGBTQ, LMNOP, 4-5 alpha, whatever symbols, whatever. You have to accept those people, accept me. And that's what I did. I accepted myself. So when you internalize this red pill information, the transition into an LTR is actually not that hard. I'm literally right now, there's a girl sitting on the floor feeding me fruit. My LTR, literally feeding me fruit. And it's not like, I'm happy. I went to Vietnam. I had a fucking grand old time. So I'm like, for these guys who are like completely like on one end of the spectrum, which is like kind of spurgy, artful man types, like, oh, I live in my mom's basement and I'm just crazy. And then they look down the road at marriage and they can't even sustain a conversation with the woman. Of course, looking down the road at marriage and long-term commitment and everything, that is really terrifying. And it's like you're like a little level 1 dork with like a sword, and you're looking at like a level 1000 Game of Thrones dragon that you got to kill in the distance. Like you got it. There's levels to this stuff, and you got to progress it. So that's all I got to say.
Good stuff, man. A while back, I did an episode called "What is your password?" And in other words, a guy's password is something that a woman can say or do that literally it's almost like a hack. It's like a cheat code, something that a woman can do or say, or a certain look that bypasses all of your masculine common sense. And listen, every man has it, red pill aware or not. I'll tell you a quick story. I remember this one Ukrainian girl I was fucking when I was in Vegas. And I think she might have been Russian. She had a very thick accent. She spoke very good English, but her name was Tatiana. Beautiful girl, long, like Children of the Corn, blonde hair. She had like these steely blue, like baby blue eyes. I mean, fucking gorgeous. Anyway, I remember we're walking down Flamingo Road. I'll never, ever forget this. And we go to cross the street, and I just reached out and grabbed her and pulled her back to the sidewalk because there's a motorcycle speeding down the side of the road. Now, Tatiana was like maybe 105, 106. And I remember after I yanked her back, she just looked me in the eye. She says, "Oh, Donovan, I feel so safe with you." And I was like, "No!" It was almost like it was like when Achilles caught that arrow in his Achilles heel. I knew she disarmed me. I knew she just bypassed all of my red pill programming, but there was nothing I can do about it. It's almost like Hayden Christensen's character in the movie Awake. Remember that? Like when he woke up mid-surgery, but he couldn't move or talk, but he could feel everything. He knew he was vulnerable, but he couldn't do anything about it. Turns out, Tatiana had a boyfriend the entire time I was fucking her. And when I found out about it, this is post-red pill. I was sick, man. Like I was sick, dude. And she had all the red flags. But when she told me she felt safe with me, it blinded me to all of those things. And of course, she was able to play me like a fiddle. I was the side dude who thought he was the main dude. That's a rude awakening, guys. And it took me a while to get over her because I think I really might have loved her. I thought that she was different in a lot of ways, but only because of her accent and the fact that she was Russian or Ukrainian or whatever. And girls say shit like this all the time. I have so much fun with you. They say, I've never met anyone like you before. I could see us together in the future, or I would love to give you your first child. Like, or the famous one, you make me feel like no one else has, or I'm afraid of you because you could hurt me. And of course, the big one, I think I'm falling in love with you. A lot of guys share that password. It used to be one of mine before I found the red pill. I remember Tatiana told me one time, this was crazy. She said she wanted to have a little boy who was just like me. She said, "Donovan, I want a small copy of you." Guys, I'm 5 years into the red pill, and I'm actually entertaining serious thoughts about having a kid with this girl. Now, again, here are the red flags that she had. She had an extremely high-paying job. She worked in a field that required her to travel. She was constantly surrounded by wealthy men, and she only FaceTimed me when she was on her porch smoking. Red flags as clear as fucking day, gentlemen. But because she said she felt safe with me and that she said she wanted a small copy of me, I ignored it all, and she ended up burning me. She ended up burning me pretty badly. Truth be told, now that I'm actually thinking about it, my breakup with her, I would venture to say it's almost as bad as my breakup with Amy. Like, real fucking talk, guys. The point is this, is that just like MLD said, just because you're a red pill guy, that doesn't make you immune to the wiles of a woman. But by the same token, you still, easier said than done, it still has to be done. And to bring it back, what today's topic is that a lot of guys who preach all this red pill stuff and they're all hardcore, it's easy to be red pill when you're fucking 5 different girls. It's easy to say bitches ain't shit, give 0 fucks when you don't actually give 0 fucks. But when you have skin in the game, like Rollo's been married for 23 years, right? He's got a 20-something-year-old, he's got a 20-year-old daughter, right? Rollo's got skin in the game, but Rollo still sticks to his red pill beliefs. And I said all that to say this. There is tremendous value in listening to red pill guys who are single, but there is even more value listening to guys who are in long-term relationships who have not compromised their red pill beliefs. Guys like Rollo, myself, Ryan, Carl probably has 3 wives that we don't know about in 3 different countries. Take advice from him. So the real difference between, I guess there's red pill light, and then there really is hardcore red pill. Everybody,
do you believe when you're tested?
Yeah, there you go, man. Being in a long-term relationship is the ultimate test of your real red pill, like, hard drive. And if you find yourself changing or backsliding when you are in a relationship, maybe you weren't as red pill as you thought you were. Rollo, you said you wanted to talk about dream girls and children with dynamite.
Yeah. I that's sort of a saying that I have from from my. Oh, am I still on?
No, yeah, my bad. Ryan said he wanted to do something quickly, and I missed.
Oh, go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, my bad.
No, that was already it. That was already it. The point
he already did it. All right, never mind. Go ahead.
Okay.
All right, Rollo, you got it.
I wanted to go here because I don't think I talk about this all that often. Anyways, I think a lot of guys, particularly when they're, we're dealing with a generation of guys who are young men who read our material, or they read the Rational Male, and it wakes them up. And it saves their lives. I mean, literally, I have guys tell me all the time, it saved my life. And now, like, I don't tell guys how to use the information that I give them. I said, here are the tools, make a life for yourself. Like I'm always saying is, like, I'm not in the business of making better men. I'm in the business of helping men make themselves better men. And there's a quantifiable distinction you need to make in those two things. I give men the tools. I still don't know who said this, but it was a pretty cool thing. Somebody said that the red pill is the Chilton manual for intersexual dynamics, right? And if you don't know what the Chilton manual is, just go Google that. It's like an objective manual. It's pretty much like a breakdown of every little thing about whatever car it is that you're.
By the way, Rollo, let me interrupt you really quickly. I don't know if you know this, but the guy that wrote all the Chilton manuals for Jeeps, his name is Moses Ludell. He lives in Fernley, Nevada, and I actually know him personally. That's my claim to fame. So yes, I know that guy. Anyway, go ahead.
Chilton, man. Well, so anyways, what I'm saying is, like, it's a tool set. It's giving you, like, the real. You're woke up to the real dynamics that have been pretty much directing your life for a very long time. Well, my first hope for guys is that they will use that to change their lives for the better. Now, what a lot of guys do is they learn this stuff, or they learn a little bit of game, and they want to apply it so that they can get their old blue pill ideals to come true. They want their dreams to come true because they never really they can see how the mechanics of the game are played, but they never really unplug. They never really kill the beta. They never really stop it with their, stop believing in their Disney inspired blue pill idealisms. But they get this tool set, or they get this Chilton manual, and they go, aha, finally I can get that girl in my dreams because now I know how the game is played. And so young men wanting this cheat code, and then that's what they think it is. They think that the red pill is a cheat code. Finally I can figure out how to get my girlfriend, and live happily ever after. And so I've always tried to say this. I say, you know what, guys, the game doesn't end once you get your dream girl or your
ever
girlfriend. That's one of the reasons why I always say you need to spin plates. You need to learn how to deal with different women and understand, the nature of women. And the only way to do that is to date non-exclusively and to be with many women, so you understand how the game is used against you, but just basically how it's played and how you can reliably, at least somewhat predictably, go out and game a girl and put her into your plate spinning roster. We were talking about that yesterday, right? But what these guys do is, instead of spinning plates, because they've been so blue pill conditioned to think that they could never do something like that, they go, oh, I could never do that, but thanks for all this information. I'm going to go get my girlfriend now. And they'll go find some chick that they knew, from high school, and look how much I've changed, honey. It's like I have a post called "Old Flame, New Game." I'll put it in the chat here in just a second.
That's good. I like that.
How guys, it's based on how guys will do exactly this. They'll learn game, they'll learn the red pill, but their only drive, their only, you know, their vengeful, vindictive purpose is to go, you know what, I'm going to go back in time and I'm going to get those girls that always blew me out in high school, right? And that is like the exact opposite of what you should do. Is that and guys will do this, and those because they have this idea. They never kill the soulmate myth in their heads. They really, really, really want that girl, the dream girl. And so that's why I wrote that post about dream girls and children with dynamite. And Children of Dynamite is a quote that I stole from Ross Jeffries. Ross Jeffries said this because when the game came out back in the early 2000s, and it was Mystery, and it was Style, and it was Tyler
Neil Strauss, and
all these guys, when it was all those dudes back in the day, Ross Jeffries wanted to be a part of that, obviously, because he's been trying to be like Mr. Pickup Dude for most of his life. And he saw this, and he saw these young bucks coming up here, and they were cracking the code. And he saw that, and he saw, and wisely, I think this is one of the wisest things he's ever said, is that it's like giving dynamite to children, because you're giving them the keys to the Lamborghini, but they don't know how to drive, and they don't know what to do with that car once they get the car. So you're basically giving them the keys to a car that they have no idea how to drive, or you're giving them a black belt when they really are a white belt. And you're wrapping that belt around their waist, and you go, okay, go out there into the arena and go and kick ass, right? You know everything you need to know. Here's your black belt. And then predictably, they crash the car, or they get their asses kicked in the octagon, you know? And then they wonder, oh my God. Then they say, oh, the red pill doesn't work. The red pill is evil, because they ended up fucking themselves because they never unplugged fully. They never made it part of who they are, because it was always an act. It was always a game to them. It was always something, it was just a means to an end, because in their heart of hearts, they thought, well, if I get the girl of my dreams, she's going to love me as much as I'm going to love her. And they still believed in that Disney blue pill bullshit. But now they have the access. They go, oh, okay, I can finally get to that. I can finally get to the girl. And it blows up in their face. And I know this firsthand because I did exactly the same fucking thing. When I was Mr., you know, when I was in my rock star 20s, when I was, you know, junior rock star, and I was nailing chicks pretty much every night, or if I could go out and do it at will if I wanted to. And then I run into the hottest chick I've ever met, who happens to have BPD.
Oh, God.
Oh, great, man. This is the one. I fully bought into that. I fully bought into one-itis. I fully bought into the soulmate myth. And I thought, oh man, this is the girl that God gave me, right? This is, oh man, you know, and I used all of my game skills and my techniques that I'd sort of honed through the years in the clubs and everything. And it worked perfectly, man. It was great. But here's the thing. I could get any girl, and I got any girl. And I had no clue what to look for. I had no clue how to deal with this. And granted, she was, you know, clinically, psychologically, you know, spun out, but I didn't see that because I was still locked in. I had the skills to get chicks, but I was still locked into that blue pill identity. It was who I was. I'm going to do anything for you, babe. I'm going to be an egalitarian equalist, and we're going to play 50-50, you know, and when women don't really want that. They want you to drive the car is what they want you to do. But here I am trying to play along with that because that's what I believe. So here I have the ability to go and get chicks, but I'm still operating from this old blue pill mindset that Disney taught me when I was 5 years old, and all my female teachers taught me from a very, very early age. And this is what guys are doing right now, is they go and they'll be, like you said, Captain Red Pill, and they'll be gurus, and they'll you know, start blogs, and they'll sound fortune cookie, tea leafy, you know, you know, spiritualist, metaphysical crap, because that's what sells their bullshit. But then when they get into that, they're with their dream girl, and all of that shit changes. And you know what? Here's the thing. At least when I was doing that, there was no internet. And at least when I was doing that, I wasn't trying to foist my ideas or my new ideas on people who had been following me for a very long time, because it was just me. There was no internet back then. And that's what these guys are doing, is they are children with dynamite. And when it explodes in their face, then they got to go and they got to re-evaluate their lives. You go rethink your life, right? And that's what these guys are doing. So they'll go and they'll get a girlfriend and they'll entertain this stupid idea of having like a long distance girlfriend. And they'll do all of the things that they just would rage against the machine for when they were Captain Red Pill. I'll never get in a long distance relationship. That's stupid. Guys are beta for doing something like that. What do? They get in.
Then they go and do it. Yeah.
No. Or they'll be like, oh, I'm never going to get into a relationship with a girl who's like this, this, and this. And you know what? They get into a relationship with exactly the person that they say, because they still desperately want that ideal. They want that because that's what makes them feel good. They want to believe that they could have that. And that's also, I should say here, just at the end here, I should also say that's why I don't use my relationship with my wife as an example. That like I don't want that to think that that's like proof of concept. I mean,
Rollo, you're married.
Yeah, exactly. How do I get what you get? Well, I don't know, because I'm not you, you're not me, and the chick you're going to meet is not my wife. So don't think that, you know, my success is any kind of indication of your future success. So you have to work that shit out for yourself. But they desperately want that. That's what gets me about these purple pill life coaches is like they want. I was just dealing with this last week. These guys who sell this idea that here's your soulmate plan. Here's the plan to get a soulmate.
Oh my God.
And that is like the most dangerous thing you could possibly teach a guy who is.
How much does that cost?
Waking up. Yeah, exactly.
$29.99 actually.
Yeah.
I looked that up. Yeah.
Did you know which one I'm talking about? Because I was railing against it this week. But when I see that kind of stuff, I go, you are sending guys to their deaths by doing that, because what they're going to do is they're going to do they're children with dynamite. Maybe they can get the girl, but they still believe in that, and they'll do anything for her. And that's exactly what destroys their relationship, is because they'll do anything to sustain that relationship, because they believe in like the ideal and the metaphysics behind it, and the fucking tea leaves and everything else that they can throw out there. And they teach guys this. And then when it blows up in their face, they go, oh, I'll never go back to that again. I'm suddenly Captain Red Pill once again. So if I'm going to leave you guys with anything, understand that you need to internalize a red pill so that it becomes part of who you are. It needs to be internalized. You need to be the game. It needs to be your default response, because if it's not, you're playing an act, and that act is going to end up biting you in the ass at some point, because when we were saying just yesterday, Donovan, was, hypergamy is looking for authenticity. It's looking for the real deal. It wants to determine. That's why women have a hypergamous filter. They want to see if you're really who you say you are. And if you're not, there is nothing that pisses off women more than that, because that is their existential fear. Women's existential fear is to link up or have a kid with or commit her life to a guy who says he's an alpha, but when they get into it and she's already committed and the ink is on the paper, then he turns into Mr. Blue Pill Beta guy, and he's not who he sold himself as, but yet she's committed her life to that. And that is what pisses them off. That is the hypergamous existential fear of women, is to breed with an unworthy guy. And that's what everything they do is centered on. That's why they hate pickup artists. They hate pickup artists because it mimics the behaviors of guys who are authentically dudes that they might want to spend the rest of their lives with. And then they find out that it's all an act, that they
that really pisses them off.
Or they learn, and it is an act. It's an act because these guys never internalize it and become that ideal guy. They don't become that guy that is authentic about who he really is.
This is the thing I say all the time about pickup artists, is that, the pickup artist community, they provide tremendous value for guys. They tell guys how to become arousing to women. Where the glaring, I don't want to call it weakness, but where the deficiency is, they can get you the pussy, right? But where their knowledge stops is after you fuck her. What happens after you get done fucking her, right? If you just want to do a bunch of one-night stands, and that's fine, mystery method and all that, that's perfectly fine. But what happens if you actually like the girl, right? What happens if you actually enjoy a woman's company outside of sex? The pickup artist community doesn't teach you that. I'm going to give a couple of shout outs here for super chats. Geppetto Man with the $5 super chat.
Jump in for a second here.
Yeah, go ahead, Carl. My bad. Go ahead.
After you fuck her is pretty easy. First, you roll over, you throw the condom in the toilet, or you douse it down with Lysol. This is the NBA's recommended way for players to deal with condoms. Then you roll out of bed. If she wants to leave, right then and there, you offer a drink before you leave, and you crush up a morning after pill in her drink. If you're staying over, then you wait until the next morning, and you crush up a morning after pill in her orange juice. By the way, this is illegal, so if you're doing this, make sure you don't tell anyone you are actually doing it.
Wow, I love that, dude. That is the listen, man. That is the guaranteed way, almost guaranteed way not to get the girl pregnant or get got. Let me shout out these super chats and then we'll go to Ryan here. Geppetto Man, $5 super chat says salute and happy days. Keep the knowledge coming. Peter Crozen with the €2 says hit the like button, guys. Tin Cantona with the $5 super chat says help spread the red pill using this one weird trick. I love the clickbait there. Thrill Ho, I presume, with the $10 super chat says good work, fellas. So Ryan, what are your thoughts on what Rollo just discussed?
I was going to say, I'm thinking back to it. Carl and I talked about before how there's that 30-30-30 rule. Get 30 chicks, buy 30 grand a year, whatever.
You know what? I think it's 35. 35 chicks and at least 35 years old before you start looking for a long-term relationship.
I'd agree. As long as it's over 20, and I'll get to where I'm going with it here.
Right.
And the whole children with dynamite thing, I love it because it's a guy thinking, I learned how to swim, so I can handle this flood. Not how it works. But guys in their head, they know what they want. They've imagined what they want. And there's two problems with that. One, unrealistic expectations, and two, horrible sample size. So unless you really know what you want and it's grounded in reality, you're eventually going to be subservient to a girl's whims. And that's that death of 1,000 concessions Carl was talking about. So you're going to have to pick your own path and make it realistic. And there's the nuance. It needs that feedback look of reality. That's why you see a lot of the guys, they get a girlfriend and then they start talking about philosophy, MBTI, numerology, all that crap. They're unfalsifiable. Like, you can never be wrong. And
right.
That's dangerous, because if you can never be wrong, you can bullshit whatever you're talking about to mean whatever you want. Everything's a success because nothing's not a success. And when that happens, it's going to be a test of frames. And she will be nagging for 10 years if it takes to whittle you down. And, I like her, so you'll make a concession after concession. Now, the reason I said it has to be at least 20 for that 30-30-30 rule, cluster B personalities. I remember reading that the APA, back when they were useful, said it was something like 5%. 5% of the population has it. Is that, I think that Rollo, Carl, can you confirm it's about there, 5%?
Yeah, for cluster B, it's about 5-6%. For mental disorders among women in general, I think it was about 22%. I remember writing at some point that you have a better chance if you fire a shot at Russian roulette at your head not to kill yourself than to avoid running into a crazy bitch if you dated over 6 girls.
Exactly. So yeah, 1 in 20. That's 1 in 20. If you don't have a notch count of at least 20, you don't have that 5% experience.
You ain't ready.
So, yeah, you're not ready. You don't even know what ready looks like. If you want to have, let's say you're a tradcon, you have that goal of the white picket fence and the wife and the Norman Rockwell painting over your fireplace there, retiring in Florida, you aren't going to be able to tell if you're talking to a girl that really is the girl of your dreams, or if it's the girl that saw you wearing your heart on your sleeve and decided to replicate what you wanted to weaponize that. Carl and I just had 2 hours of conversation where we talked about how easily manipulatable guys are, especially well-intentioned ones. So even the most traditional conservative, I'm waiting till marriage guy, he needs this experience. It's self-preservation, because you can't tell who was able to hold this together. And this changes over time. So it's not even a high quality versus low quality. There's not Morlocks and Eloys. It's not like that. It's just one type of women. It's just women. Because if you think about it, do you remember Royce's post about the different demographics of women and what it's like to date? Where the 23-year-olds were nice and pleasant, a lot of fun. 25 to 28 or to 32, they kind of have that agenda, so you can tell they're pushing you through. But he was saying it was the oddest thing. Like, for girls that were over 35, past their prime, and they were less attractive than they used to be, This is when they had the most incentive to be more pleasant. He actually found that that was when they were the most unpleasant, and they had the most demands, and they were the hardest ones to get along with. It's the same as when you're out to dinner and you notice that girl that's got her kids, she's got her husband, and then all of a sudden she's a huge bitch to everybody because she has no reason to act right anymore. Like, what are you going to do to her? You can't hit her. She's got everything she wanted. There's nothing you can do to remove her from her pinnacle of self. And so not only are you vetting for what's the difference between that 5% bipolar cluster of women versus the 95% of average women versus maybe that 5% of women that are one step above, as well as those long-term implications that what is she going to be like when she drops that facade? And if you're switching over from all of this knowledge right away, you're going to screw that up. And that's how you're going to end up like Roosh with that 3 to 5 year LTR where he didn't like the red pill anymore. Then all of a sudden she dumps him and now, oh, bitches be crazy. And so for the whole thing, to tie it all together, it's about goals, realistic goals that have proper feedback. And you only get that through experience and expectation management. And that only comes from seeing the worst of humanity. And that, again, comes from experience. You get a large enough subset, you get your reasonable, realistic expectations. And I don't think the dynamite kids are actually looking to learn, which sucks. That's the reason you have to be here, is to learn. We're all learning every day. I learn stuff from you guys every podcast. They're looking to reinforce a narcissistic fantasy of the good girl, that woman of Willendorf that they're going to love. And if you guys don't know what that is, that's like a Neolithic sculpture back when like the fertility gods was the only god. I call them the sun hat gods now. So they're not actually taking the red pill to observe women. They're looking for a set piece. And I'll take you back to some pickup stories on this one. Think about, do you know how usually you were told, do your 100 approaches and by then you'll be very good at approaches?
Right.
And running sets. So guys will just plow through the 100 of them, thinking that there's gold at the end of the rainbow, but they've completely ignored the process. They didn't learn anything because they think they can steer that rainbow whatever direction they want to, and the gold is wherever they put it. It doesn't work that way. The rainbow goes where it goes, and you have to observe that. Otherwise, you're never going to get to your pot of gold. And so I'll end it off with a saying that ties into what Rollo was saying. It's something we use with the married red pill. And I think it's the difference between a child with dynamite and a self-actualized red-pilled man. It's that the stay plan is the same as the go plan. And that's the best way I can put it. Stay plan is the same as the go plan.
Wow, well said. And I agree with you, Ryan. And I'll piggyback off this before I go to Carl. You don't get good with women without a few scars. This is just the way it's going to have to be. Seeing the worst in humanity by sleeping with a bunch of different women, it's going to suck and it's going to hurt, just like those 100 approaches. But if you don't learn anything, you're going to continue to be the same guy. Carl, what are your thoughts?
Well, I just keep thinking back to something I spoke with Ryan about earlier. Like most naturals I know, they're the guys who started chasing girls when they were like 11, 12 years old. They started chasing girls that were their same age. Most of the guys who find the manosphere are guys who are like 5, 10, 15, 20 years behind their peers in the sexual marketplace. Like when a girl is 20, she's had girls, men hitting on her every day for the past 8 to 10 years. They're well versed within the sexual marketplace. Guys who find game are generally 5 years behind the slowest guys in their class when it comes to hitting on girls. So they have to put in a lot more work to catch up. The main problem with that is a lot of these guys tend to go into the market they're like the guy who comes into the gym first day and try to bench press 405. You know, that's just going to end with a guy blowing his chest open. And you have to kind of work your way up. So you start with just the bar, then you add 5 pounds and 5 more pounds, and you keep going until you can lift 405. You can't just jump over and start going hard on that. You have to kind of work your way up there. And a lot of the trad cons, they will never have any good experience with women, and then they go straight into a marriage without any experience dealing with women. That's like the first thing you ever drive, being an armored personnel carrier. That's just not going to work. So you become a child with dynamite when you're using something you don't have to, when you don't have the experience to handle it. So for me, it's just a matter of know where you are in the process and don't force the process until you're ready for it. I had to have shoulder surgery a couple of years back because I tried to do a bench press that I wasn't ready for, but my ego was too big to realize I wasn't ready for it. So I blew out my shoulder. And, 8 months off lifting because you had to have surgery is not a good thing. And having to go through a divorce process with a BPD girl because you weren't ready to see all the red flags because she was good in bed, that's not a good sign. So
that's the equivalent of trying to bench press 405 when you've never done it before. Very good analogy, Carl.
So what I told Ryan earlier was pretty simple on that. Just don't focus so much on the goal. You'll get to the goal eventually. Just keep putting in the work and you'll get there. Don't try and force the world to follow your timeline.
Well said. Rollo, you wanted to jump in here quickly?
Yeah, I did. You didn't hear me okay? I didn't know.
We got you, man.
I didn't know I messed up the mic. Anyways,
just don't drop it.
Yeah, I just wanted to point a couple things out here because I'm looking at the chat here, and a lot of guys are giving examples of this. They're like what I was saying before. A guy like Mark Manson is a really good example of this. A dude who a lot of people considered, had something to say in a red pill respect. I mean, he's got his, he had his book Models for a while, and everybody doesn't really give a shit about his new books, but they go back to that because that's where he actually had some sort of significance when he was Captain Red Pill, right? That's when he had something to say that people wanted to listen to, or had some legitimacy. And now he's decided that he wants to be Captain Feminist because he is in a relationship, or he's in a marriage right now, and you can see that his relationship has colored the way that he is thinking about things. So if you read his blog from like back before he was married and you read his blog now, it's like two different dudes. It's like a completely different message that's coming out of the guy. Same thing with Tucker Max. Tucker Max got into, anybody who knows Tucker Max, he wrote, well, I Hope They Serve Beer in Hell, I think. And he was very well known, particularly in pickup artist community, for a guy who would go and relate all of his personal experiences of, having sex and being sort of like this incorrigible frat boy. And then he knocked a chick up. She said, "You're going to marry me. I'm going to have your kids." And now he's stuck because he is Tucker Max and he can't really do anything except be Tucker Max. So what he has to do is he has to change his script. He has to change something about himself and say, well, I've matured now, and so you should still listen to me because this is the next step in the game. It's like, no, it's not. It's you reverting back to your blue pill, mentality because you have to. You're locked into this purpose of reconciling your old ways with your new ways. And so the only way you can do that, the only way you can make yourself sound legitimate is by saying, okay, we're moving the red pill ahead. I love that one. We're moving the red pill forward. Is what comes after this kind of stuff. And it's like, no, there is no after this. There's nothing that's after the objective truth about intersexual dynamics. How you apply that is different, but the truth doesn't change. It's still what it is what it is. How you're gonna deal with that and how you're gonna set that up in your life, that's kind of up to you. But here's the thing. So you've got that, and you've got these guys who, for lack of a better term, they backslide, right? They become Captain Red Pill, and then they go back to being Purple Pill or even Blue Pill. And then maybe they go back to being Red Pill again once it blows up in their face. An example of that is Neil Strauss. Neil Strauss went from being Mr. Incorrigible pickup artist, wrote the book on pickup artistry inside the pickup artistry community, then spent the rest of his life up to now trying to change that impression of everybody, because everybody read the game, but not hardly anybody is reading The Truth, right? Or any of his other stuff, because he's gone fortune cookie, tea leaf, let's just go along to get along kind of guy. And now he's getting a divorce. So it's going to be really interesting to see how his tune changes when the divorce is final. And he
just
has
like Ryan said, just be crazy. Back to
exactly. He has to go back to being incorrigible single dude so that he can get back into that situation once again. Now, maybe he's learned something, but I think he's probably going to go back to doing something like that because that's what was successful for him in the past. That's what got him into the marriage in the first place. But he's never really understood, or he's never really unplugged himself. He just was still the blue pill guy he was with game. And you can be blue pill and still get laid. and you can be a beta and you can still get laid. And you can be, you can write books on this stuff, and you can like preach red pill stuff, and you can still be a chump inside of, because you've never really unplugged yourself. Now, here's the other thing though, and I'm gonna flip the script here, and maybe Ryan or any of the rest of you guys want to talk about this, but what I want to say is this: is that it is possible to be in a relationship and still stick to your guns and still be red pill. I know, because I've done it, and I think you guys
Goddamn right.
You guys have done it as well. So the trick is this: how do you get into a relationship and keep it a red pill relationship and stay real and stay 100% with—
Damn, Rolo, that was going to be my question after the reset.
Who you were. So let's do the reset then, and we'll answer that question.
Okay. All right, gentlemen, you are listening to the 66th episode of the Red Man Group. We are brought to you by Tactical Soap. Bond, Maverick, and Durden all got plenty of women in their day, and with Tactical Soap, so can you. Blondes, brunettes, redheads, purple-haired sluts will all fall at your feet with regular use. Disclaimer: if your results are too intense, please decrease use. We're going to open up the phone lines here in a little bit, but let's ask another question. Rolo jumped the gun. We're going to start off here with modern life dating. So we know now it's not easy to maintain your red pill beliefs within the construct of a long-term relationship with a woman, right? Living the red pill life is difficult enough as it is. It is even more difficult when there is skin in the game. So what can men do to avoid the blue pill backsliding and becoming purple pill when they get into LTRs? What you got?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, you don't know. You'll let us know when it happens, huh?
No. I just don't know I don't know how ready the audience is. You just always gotta have her replacement on deck. Got to have her replacement on deck. That's like mentally, because basically what a lot of guys, a lot of our critics, they get mad at us because all we do really is essentially the games women play on men, we just play on women, and then they get livid when we do that. So like, in order to what was your question again? You're just saying like, how can guys avoid blue pill backsliding when they're in relationships, a la Neil Strauss, Tucker Max, etc. So Tucker Max was never an alpha male.
There you go.
Neil Strauss was never an alpha male. Okay, Tucker Max got a bunch of pussy because he was a famous, rich, status author. Okay, Neil Strauss. Listen, you put Neil Strauss in a software engineering job, that guy dies a fucking incel for sure. Okay, that guy is not alpha male. That guy is not a dominant male. He's like, genetically look at him. He's a little skinny. He looks like Mr. Burns, and he's frail. He has a high-pitched voice. That guy isn't commanding any dominance. That guy is not getting women in the field based off of merit. He's getting it based off of his association with, like, I think he was following a Motley Crue or something. He was following some rock band. And then he just got paired up with all these dorks who did the PUA thing. And they like I said, like Rolo said, children with dynamite. They gave him a couple lines. Nobody knew about this stuff. You go out, guys, getting sex from a woman is easy. Okay.
Yes.
Especially these days and age. Getting sex from a woman is like taking a drink of water from a public water fountain. It is effortless. Okay. What takes skill and what ultimately is an indicator of red pill awareness is happily sustaining a relationship with a woman or women where everything is on your terms. That is red pill awareness. Yes, because you went on some RSD boot camp, you grab some chick, you spin her around. Oh, baby, you believe in magic. Oh, blah, blah, blah. You say some crap and you kiss her and you go out. She's drunk. She ends up going having sex with you. You're terrible in bed and she never calls you back, but you're so blue pill unaware of anything. You're like, oh, I'm king of the alpha males. I'm going to fucking start patstedman.com now. And I'm going to tell everybody how to be a fucking, I'm going to teach everybody how to be an alpha male. So that's the thing, you guys, you have to, it all comes back to the original point. Okay. You have to internalize this stuff. Okay. I did not become the man that I am overnight. Neither did Donovan, neither did Ryan, neither did Rollo, neither did Carl. None of us. Steve the Dean, none of these guys. Even, you know, all of these guys have guys who taught them as well, right? Steve the Dean has his mentor. Donovan has his mentor. I had mine. Okay, we learned this stuff old school, like Knights of the Templar style. Like, we had to go to the fucking temple. We had to meet our master, and he'd be like, okay, you need to do this, this, and this. You fail or you pass. But a lot of guys, they just skip that. They go to like knightstemplar.com. They buy a fucking PUA course for $297.
Knightstemplar.com/Pat Stedman.
And then, you know, he's like, oh, real knights don't need swords. You know, just read the Bible. They will be compelled to surrender. And, you know, and then.
That's great. I got a copy. I got to mark that. Somebody mark that.
That's a good one.
And then, you know, old Friar Pat is telling you what to do. And, you know, and then you get these guys and they're like, okay, I'm ready to go to battle with the Muslim horde, or the whatever invading horde of the Crusades is. I'm ready. I've got my Bible. And then they go out there and they get murdered. And then what this is an analogy is for is like, you know, they get a girl like, oh, I'm married. I read everything in the game. I've got to figure it out. Oh, what do you mean divorce laws? What's alimony? What do you mean child support payments? Like, but she said she loved me, so that's real, right? And they don't understand the reality. And that's the thing. Once you understand the real deal truth, the real deal reality, and like we said, it's in your blood, it's who you are, then you're ready to get into an LTR if you choose it. I mean, you could be like Captain Infinite Bangaho, like fucking Carl here. Carl's never going to settle down. Or you can be like, you know, like some of the guys, like Donovan is a very practical guy. He just basically did a life cost analysis. He's like, okay, I'm going to fucking end up dead if I keep on chasing hoes in Vegas.
Oh my God.
And if I settle down with Devin and have a good old happy life and make a radio show, I'll make some good money. So let me just do this instead of dying, you know? So that's the thing. He has the power and the authority through experience to make that decision.
I'll actually I'll piggyback off of what MLD said. A lot of guys, and there was a comment in the chat which was very poignant, you know, like what's the reward for all of the risk that comes from pursuing a long-term relationship with a female. And, you know, there are guys on the internet, a lot of MGTOW guys who say, oh, you know, being with a woman is like playing Russian roulette. That is the worst analogy I have ever heard, because when you play Russian roulette, you do not win in Russian roulette. You can only lose, right? Okay, so a win is that you don't die. You squeeze the trigger and a bullet happens to not be in the chamber. There's no benefit to that, right? A victory in Russian roulette is status quo. But men wouldn't chase women if women didn't offer us the things that we like. Regular sex, companionship, etc. Listen, women are very, very risky, but let's not pretend that they don't come with some reward. Otherwise, we wouldn't be taking these risks. Let's not pretend that we don't want relationships with females. There's a lot of risk, but the red pill allows you to mitigate some of those risks. I'm gonna also say this. Girlfriends, I say this all the time, girlfriends are better than wives. And the reason why is because wives feel like they've hit the lottery, so they're not really motivated to keep you around. Well,
I was just saying, man, they lose the veneer. What do they have to,
exactly.
What are you going to do about it?
And it's the same thing with red pill guys. Okay, I've got all the red pill knowledge. I'm in a long-term relationship, so I don't really have to try anymore. No. Nothing could be further from the truth. So to answer the question, here is the first thing that a man has to do to keep himself from blue pill backsliding. You have to understand that you need to maintain dominance. Gentlemen, this isn't easy. You cannot show weakness. You cannot open up to her no matter how much she tells you she wants to. You must be steadfast in your convictions, right or wrong. You got to maintain a dominant frame. That shit's hard, man. Maintaining frame is difficult. It is a headache. You don't feel like doing it. But if you want to maintain your woman's respect and adoration, this is the price you pay. This also requires you to demand her best at all times. Just because you're a fucking red pill guy and she gave you her best, that doesn't mean she's going to continue to do her best for you. You must demand it. And as red pill guys, sometimes we can't bring our A game every day. Sometimes demanding your woman's best is very difficult, especially when neither of you feels like trying. But this is necessary to avoid the blue pill backsliding. Your woman must know, gentlemen, she's required to give her best at all times, or at least try to. It's not easy, guys. She's going to get upset. She's going to yell. She's going to throw a fit. She's going to try to close her legs. That's the price you pay to not blue pill backslide. But when we see a woman who seems to be in line all the time around her boyfriend or husband, you can believe he pays this price. It is hard to be demanding of your woman, guys. Trust me, I do it myself. But this is the price to pay. This is the price you have to pay to keep from blue pill backsliding. Here's something else. It requires you to correct bad behavior. Guys, correcting bad behavior with someone you care about is not easy. Parents don't like spanking their children. Parents don't like putting their children on punishment. The kid throws a fit. The kid cries. I hate you, mom. I hate you, dad. But this is necessary if you don't want to raise a mouthy fucking kid. It's not easy to punish a woman when she fucks up, guys. It's not easy to withdraw your attention from her, especially when she's attractive. You're horny, but she's a bitch earlier, right? You think it's not easy to fuck her that night? You think it's easy not to pay attention? But you have to. Because if you don't, you're going to reinforce that bad behavior, which is blue pill backsliding. It's very easy to reward good behavior, guys. It's easy to take her to the beach for a weekend when she's made you, great dinners all weekend long. It's easy to surprise her with a nice gift because she's been a great woman to you all month. It's easy to reward women, but it is far from easy to correct bad behavior, guys. It sucks. I do it all the time. It fucking blows. She's going to throw fits. She's going to she's going to cry. She's going to shit test you. The shit fucking sucks. But if you want to keep your woman in line, if you want to keep from blue pill backsliding, this is the price you pay. Tolerating her adverse reactions to your decreasing availability after she gets out of pocket, remaining stone-faced when she cries in front of you because you told her the next time she reactivated her Facebook page behind your back, she was fucking gone. That shit's not easy. This sounds like a broken record, guys, but punishing bad behavior is hard, guys. This is why guys like Mark Manson, Pat Stedman, Tucker Max, and Neil Strauss are all in a downward spiral because it's not easy. Just like MLD said, they were never alpha males in the first place. This is the price you pay to keep a woman in line, to keep from blue pill backsliding. When red pill guys became purple pill, right, or blue pill, that's a scarcity mindset they already have. If these guys had stuck to their beliefs, they wouldn't believe that the women they're with are irreplaceable, which is why they backslide in the first place, right? And I'll use myself as an example to end things here before we go to Carl. I care very much for Devin. I do, right? I've invested a lot of money and a lot of effort. I can't say that too loud. She's in the same room. But here's the thing. If we were to break up, it would suck. It would fucking suck. But make no mistake, gentlemen, I know I could replace her very easily with a female of equal or greater value, and I would not think twice about it. It's not easy to maintain that mindset. I got a lot of skin in the game with Devin, but if I got to let her go, I got to let her fucking go if she's not acting right. This is what these blue pill backsliding guys are afraid to do. Again, it's very easy to talk about, kick her to the curb if she's not acting right. Oh, you got to maintain your dominance. It's very easy to do when you don't give a shit about the women that you're banging. But when there are feelings involved, when there are children involved, when there is skin in the game involved, that's where the real red pill guys rise to the top. Carl, you got next.
Yeah, I'm reminded of a movie quote from Heat. That's the Robert De Niro character says, don't let yourself get attached to anything you're not willing to walk out on in 30 seconds flat if you feel the heat around the corner. And I think it's the same thing. I mean, that willingness to walk away. And by maintaining your value in a relationship, you're signaling that I'm maintaining my value so that if you act out, I can replace you. By letting your values slide, you are slowly and surely pushing all those chips over to the woman. And it's actually one of the funnier things that, guys get in shape after their wives divorce them.
Yes.
Provided they don't eat a bullet or something like that. I mean, the lead diet is just not a great thing for progress. But women, they will start getting in shape before to get ready for going single. So they'll know they're divorcing you like 6 months in advance, and they'll start losing weight, renewing their wardrobe on your dime, and doing everything they can to increase their sexual market value once they cut you loose. So maintaining your value so that you're always a little bit above hers will maintain the relationship. But doing that is hard work, and the discipline that requires will kind of keep you red-pilled. Because I think what makes guys backslide is they're tired of doing the work. Because, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, being out there running game is hard work. I mean, it's one thing is you doing the approach.
It's exhausting. They don't know.
Well, going on the dates is fun. You know, all the sex is fun. Hanging out is fun. But, you know, I don't always want to go to the gym. I don't always want to keep track of what exactly I'm eating. Did I get my protein in? Did I get my supplements in? Did I shave? Did I order new contact lenses? I mean, there's a lot of logistics that goes into this. So, you know, you have a full-time job, and then you have all the effort that goes into staying in shape and being high SMV enough to be active in the dating market. And that's a lot of work, because the average guy, like I pulled an average guy thing earlier because I had to go out and buy some stuff because I had some shit that broke over the weekend. And I just threw on a ball cap and a hoodie and I went out. And that's not usually my style, because I always look my best when I go out. So it's freshly showered, hair done, stone appropriate shirt. Everything is lined up to go out, just in case I want to hit on a cute waitress or I want to hit on some girl working in the store or something. And that's a hard work, because you're never slacking. You're always on point, and that requires a lot of effort. And most guys think, well, if I get into a relationship, I can, you know,
I don't have to do any of that stuff because she loves me for me.
I can stop working, and, you know, she loves me for my personality. I mean, if I lose my job, she'll be there to take care of me while I'm playing God of War on PlayStation. And that's just not how that shit works. And that's where I get to the point, like, a lot of guys who want this trad relationship, what they really want is their mother in a sun hat.
Ooh.
You know, they want a girl who doesn't keep them accountable, who brings them pizza rolls and wipes their ass when they have to go to the toilet while gaming, and they're busy screaming at the 12-year-old from Cincinnati that he should go drink bleach. And, you know, that's just not the type of guy who can hold a relationship down.
Oh my God.
It's so true. That's so true. Steve the Dean said something like that too. A lot of the girls, they just don't want somebody. They just don't want somebody that they have to be your damn mother.
No, I think a lot of guys want that. They just want their mother.
Oh, my bad. Go ahead.
They want a girl who loves them unconditionally, always has their best interests at heart, doesn't demand much of them, if anything at all. It's like that's why I think a lot of these guys will, once sex dolls get advanced enough to be able to cook and clean, I think a lot of guys are going to go that way, because that's what they really want. They want a sex doll who will give them pizza rolls and clean up after them.
I know someone who has a sex doll, but I don't know that she gives him pizza rolls. That would be, I don't know, man. If there was a sex doll that could give you pizza rolls, I might actually consider that.
Right. It's in Tokyo. They have all kinds of technology. Maybe there's a sex doll with a microwave under the tits. So you can just open it up and get your pizza rolls after you come.
MLD, you seen those out there? Like, what's up?
I don't know. I got my girlfriend out of a vending machine. It's the best $5 I've ever spent.
Solid, man. Solid. And you probably overpaid, right?
Oh, my brain hurts.
Ryan, what are your thoughts, man? What are your thoughts?
So this ties into that realistic expectations and the falsification thing. First off, to correct John there quickly, I never really had a mentor. I literally had to put this shit together as I went. And that's been kind of my journey, is that how do you succeed without a guide? But to answer your question, which ties into that, and it's easy. It's not simple, but it's easy. If you guys really want to know the secret, it's this. You have to hate her a little bit.
Ooh.
If you can't stare at her with waterworks in her eyes, tears in her heart, if you can't stare at her with a quivering lip in your face, if you can't look at this stuff and just not have a reaction, then you're not there yet. And you're eventually going to concede. It's probably the most manipulative tactic women have. And it's not their fault. It's our fault. We're hardwired to get adrenaline rushes when we hear screaming chicks, crying babies, and that high-pitched sound. I can't remember. They did some studies.
Let me interrupt you here quickly, Ryan, because what you say is extremely important. A woman's tears are only as genuine as her silent audience. If a woman has an audience of even one person, those are crocodile tears. The only time a female's tears are genuine is when she is by herself. That's it.
And you know
Or
what? I'll even
gagging.
give her, yeah, fair enough. I'll even give her the benefit of the doubt. Let's say in that situation, her emotions are extremely strong and she's crying. I'll even grant her that. Doesn't matter. Still not changing how I'm acting.
Right.
If I'm in a relationship with somebody, I'm looking after their best interests, and whatever they disagree with, that's on them. And like I said, that's where that little bit of hate comes in. And that's why I think you'll find the most well-articulated, and I'm going to dick ride Rule Zero Dad again, the most articulate and most sensible red-pilled guys are guys who are divorced or on the cusp of divorce around their 30s, because they're missing that bravado and they have that little bit of hate in their heart, which kind of allows them to better
keep it real.
Like I was going to say objectify your women, but I just mean to be objective, not to treat them like meat, although in some cases they are. So you see, and then, you know, what, different topic. And that's what I love. And I can tell this is where you get those guys that have no experience when you hear that second wave MGTOW talking point about threat points all the time.
Oh, good.
But they aren't talking about not caring about those threat points, because the only power they have is the power you give them. And if you want to take this to an extreme level, I'll use my stepdad for this example. During both of his divorces, kids taken away, didn't give a shit. He'll start another family. He's right now, he's got all of us. I think I'm the only one that talks to him anymore out of all 5 of us. And he has a new wife that's my age. He's like in his late 60s, early 70s. She's my age.
Pimp daddy.
He has a 2-year-old kid. He started another family. To an extreme level, if you're not willing to burn the whole thing down to the ground and start over, if you're not willing to put what you think is the best way forward ahead of all those other manipulative tactics, then you're just not there and you're LARPing. And
live action
this is
role
where, yeah, and this ties into what you were saying before. A lot of this, I think it was John saying it. A lot of this stuff is just female strategies adopted for male sensibilities. We've all seen a girl, and War Brides. Rollo's got the article. He's got an article for everything. War Brides. The Germans came, killed all the French dudes. All of a sudden, the chicks are all into German guys. It's that same thing there. You have to be willing to hate a little bit and just cut it all off and start again. And it's another war reference, and then I swear to God, I'll be done with all this World War II reference, because I always hate going this route because you know where it leads, and I never like it. For the Cold War, America had this strategy of irrationality. They needed Russia to believe that we have our crazy people with our fingers on the nukes. That irrationality, that unpredictability is a rational response to this thing. If you're predictable, people are willing to fuck with you. If a woman knows that you believe in God and God doesn't believe in divorce, so she knows she always has that barrier that you're never going to cross. And of course she's going to push that boundary because she can, and you've admitted to her you will. But if in her heart of hearts she knows that you're willing to nuke everything if it's something important enough, then there's always that one little threat point that you can't be pushed too far. And the best part about it is it keeps everybody acting right. It kept nukes from flying for 50 years, knowing that America was this close to throwing them off and Russia was this close. So this is why I say you can't LARP it. You can't. And Jonathan, you're right. You need some scars. Like, I don't think any of us would have, and it's the thing I say is the core red pill quality to have, or the alpha quality, whatever importance you want to put on any of this. It's resolve, the fortitude to know that if life is taking you for granted, that you're willing to do what you have to do. It's that you're willing to go to the brink and survive. And I think a lot of this problem is that guys don't have that anymore. We don't have a great war. Like, if you came back from World War II, everything gets turned down a notch, and you have that resolve. You're like, I looked a Nazi in the eye and stabbed him with a bayonet. Like, what is this girl going to do to you? But in the last 50 years, we haven't really had that. And I think that's where a lot of these problems are, is guys don't know what they are capable of. And they haven't been the bad guy in somebody else's story, so they don't know how that can lead to a good result.
That's why
that answers your question.
I advise every man, and that's why, it's why I came to Japan. Make your own rite of passage. Okay, go to Google, type in RITE of passage, PASSAGE. That's why I came to Japan. Okay, I came out here. I don't have no rosy, beautiful past. Okay, came from broken family and never met my dad.
Dad was an
Grew
alpha.
up-
He was a cad.
yeah, he was. Grew up poor as shit, believing that if I just kept on giving 10% of my paychecks to the tithe, that the Lord will save me from eternal fire and brimstone. And I believe in all that stuff, which whatever. The Bible and the church is good stuff. But
Such a flippant endorsement.
if I had to choose a society with it or without it, I'm choosing society with it. That being said,
I think religion has its place, even if there isn't a God. At least it keeps a large group of people in line, right? Like not everybody can be immoral, you know.
It was good. It was a good control device. That being said, like, you know, I knew, okay, when I was 26, I had graduated, I put myself through college, I paid it for everything. I had my own place, I had my own business. But in my heart of hearts, I did not feel ready. I did not feel like a real man. And there's a lot of man boy stuff happening these days. I believe Rollo uses the terminology the Lost Boys, which is from Peter Pan, right? The boys who never grow up. The boys who never grow up. And so, you know, I was 26 and I was just feeling like a man child. And I was like, I need to do something extremely difficult to prove myself. And I was going to join the military, but I was like, nah, I'm not trying to die. But I was like, let me just dial it back just a little bit. And then I decided to take a trip to Japan by myself. And I said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to see if I could come out here with $2,500 in my pocket and survive for 2 years with no help. I said, if I can do that, I'll consider myself a real man. And when I came out here, the change that occurred within me, you know, it was a massive change. And it's part of internalizing the red pill, because I came out here with red pill awareness and I got ultra red pill through life stuff as well. So that being said, that's what I would have to say to you guys is, like, you need, at the end of the day, what we're all saying here is you need experience. You need to become the man. You need to go through hardships. You need the scars, because that will give you the credibility and also the point of reference from personal knowledge, not some blog you read or not some field report some fake guy wrote on the TRP subreddit, like, today I banged 3 9s in a row in my $42 million house and blah, blah, blah. Like, you have it. Like, Donovan can look into his heart and be like, yeah, man, that Ukrainian bitch fucking played me. Bitch got me good. Fell in love with that hoe.
You did.
Then, you know, I got my girls too. I remember the ones that pulled their fast ones on me too. And those girls make you a better pimp. They make you a better player, because, like, damn, I'm gonna steal that trick, that bullshit you pulled on me, I'm gonna pull on the next girl. So, like, you know, it's really what it boils down to is you just need experience. You absolutely need experience. No experience, no man. We have a problem right now with fatherless households, divorce, and a media and a government constantly attacking men and telling them that there's something wrong with them, that they're defective women, basically. When men are better than women, and 95% of all things just is what it is. Do a little history work. Like, maybe history is sexist, I don't know. But the way things have been going, and if you travel around the world, okay, if you're a man, you have value. It's just that in the States, they want to attack, they want to demonize you, but you need to collect yourself. This is your personal war that you need to handle, and you need to internalize your own personal greatness. And you need to challenge yourself to get out there and get some real life experience. Do something difficult. Don't just coast through life with mommy and daddy's paying you money and you're playing little Xbox. Yeah, you bought Irrational Male. You read it a couple times. You know, you do some push-ups. You get deadlift 405, whatever. But you've never stepped outside of Topeka, Kansas, or wherever the hell you are. You know, you don't have a passport. Okay, you haven't seen the world. You don't have a lot of experience, and the quality of your life will be lower. So get out there, get some experience.
914-205-5356 is the number to call. We've got 401 on the line, followed by 971 and then 647. 401, you're on the live at the Red Man Group. Go ahead.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Pretty good. Yeah, I sent in a super chat question. I think I needed to give a little more context, though. I was talking about how I have this constant need for validation, especially when it comes to women. Context behind that, I have autism. Like, I get diagnosed and everything,
Okay.
and that's really kind of how I, gauge where I'm at. And I think what ends up happening with me is that I'm really good at getting one-night stands in very short-term relationships. My issue is when I try to do something more long-term, that whole game I was playing before where being autistic, I can kind of pretend that their frame doesn't even exist so I can keep mine. That doesn't work anymore. And it makes me really easy to manipulate.
Okay, so you're the bright.
And I was wondering how I get rid of that. Yes, I am. And I was just wondering how to get rid of that need for validation, because all it really takes is for a woman to not give me as much attention as she was in the beginning for a couple of weeks, and I'm freaking putty.
Right. Rollo, what are your thoughts on this?
Let's see. I would say that you have to start thinking about why it is that you need validation in the first place. What is it about them? What is it about that influence that makes you feel like better about yourself because of that? Now, I'm assuming a lot of things here, but I think a lot of guys when they say, yeah, I need to have sex with a lot of girls because it validates me. I think that a lot of guys come into that understanding because somebody told them that men who have sex with multiple chicks are doing it so that they feel better about themselves. And I've always challenged that. I've always said that's BS, because most guys will, if given the chance, have sex with as many chicks as they can possibly have. That is the male sexual imperative, which is unlimited access to unlimited sexuality. So is it about validation? Well, that's pop psychology telling you that you're just having sex to feel good about yourself. No, you're having sex because you're following your evolutionary imperative.
Right.
That's why that's what you're doing. Actually,
you're having sex because she's hot.
It's not because, and the reason that I'll get to your problem here in just a second, but we need to sort of analyze why it is that you even use the word validation in the first place. Because over the course of, like, say, the last 30 to 40 years, there's been this need to sublimate men who have the ability to go and have sex with many women so that they are less of a sexual threat to other guys, and that they are behaving according to a female programmed social control over their lives, over their sexual natures. So if I can convince you that the only reason you actually want to go have sex with a lot of women is that you have something wrong with you psychologically, because if you didn't, you would only be with one woman, right? Because we think of monogamy as the correct way to do things for guys. So why do we think that? Why do we think that monogamy is like the end state goal of all of this? Well, it supports, you could make a case and say, well, it supports, family creation and all that. Okay. And you'd probably be right about that. But it also locks in with women's sexual strategy, because if alpha men who can actually go out and follow their sexual imperatives, if they can go out and do that, then first of all, they're taking away chicks from guys who would otherwise be able to be with those girls. So we normalize monogamy as the correct way to do things, but really what we're doing is we're putting men under a state of control, so that the guys who have the capacity to go out and reproduce, because that's really what it comes down to, reproducing with multiple women. Those are women that other guys who those women wouldn't have chosen otherwise don't get. So we're looking at, like, our nature as men is much more polygamous, or I don't say polyandrous, but polygamous. we like to say, but that's really what we would be doing. I mean, that's why homosexual men, run willy-nilly with each other in gay bathhouses or whatever, given free reign with no buffers on their sexuality and no filters on it. that's what they opt for. They opt for multiple sex partners because men's priority is unlimited access to unlimited sexuality. Same reason why pornography is such a big deal to guys, because it satisfies that biological evolved imperative. So what we do is we have to convince guys that they need to be monogamous because that's how we keep a functioning society. We have to do that. How do we do that? We convince guys that if they want to follow that, there's something wrong with them. If they want to jerk off to porn all the time, they have an addiction. If they are alpha dudes who can have sex with multiple chicks, then they're doing it for validation. It can't be because they're actually, following an evolved, aspect of their natures. It's because they have something that is like psychologically wrong with them. And we do this to men constantly. We've done this, and it's not just about sex too. It can be like about you expressing yourself in conventional forms of masculinity. So that's why you get the APA saying that traditional masculinity is a psychological disorder. Yeah. What that is, it's a means of controlling you as a guy to convince you that there's something wrong with you for being a guy, for expressing yourself as a man, for unapologetically being conventionally masculine. We have to make that a disorder. So remember this first. Don't buy into this bullshit about, I'm doing this, or women validate me psychologically. No, there's a reason that you feel good when a woman comes up to you, and it has nothing to do with some pre-planned way of making you think that it's about validation. It's because you feel good because when women come up to you, they are affirming for you that you're attractive and that they want to have sex with you, or that they want to get with you, and that makes guys feel good because it means they're going to succeed and there's less trouble for them to, they don't have to figure things out. That's why pornography is such an engaging thing for guys, is because, or even strip clubs. Strippers are great at making guys feel like they're actually attractive. They're not, but men will pay for it because it's so rare for a woman to come up to them and go, you know what, you're really hot. I'd really like to get with you. I'd really like to get to know you. Who would actually do that? Because if you go and you read a book called Gendernomics and you figure out that women, 85% of women rate men as unattractive, not average, unattractive, then you'll begin to understand that when a woman actually returns your interest with her own indicators of interest, or she's instantly all about kino, or instantly all about reciprocating what it is that you are, even your most minor way of doing things, or approaching her. That's when you go, oh man, and your brain kind of rewires itself because you've waited so long to have this woman come up to you and be sexually interested in you, that even if it's bullshit, even if your rational mind is saying she's trying to seduce me, or she's trying to get something out of me, or she's, like strippers, she wants to get a $20 give me a $20 lap dance. It's not that she actually wants to give me a lap dance. She just wants the $20.
That's right.
Your brain is telling you that, but your instinct is firing on all synapses because there's a hot chick that's on your lap, and you're getting sprung, and you want to get with that. So there's nothing wrong with that. You just have to make sure that your rational mind and your reasonable mind is in some way having some sort of checks and balances on your instincts, because guys are not hard to figure out for women. All you got to do is show up naked and bring beer.
Yeah, that's it. Like, guys are ready to put a ring on it.
Yeah. So the thing that you need to do, and this is my best advice to you, is to make sure that your reasonable rational mind, and not your emotional mind, your reasonable rational mind is in sync with what your instincts are telling you, and act accordingly. Because it's not about validation. It's not about this foofy emotional bullshit that women have been teaching you just to keep you in line. It's about syncing that rational mind and that reasonable mind up with your instinctual processes of interpreting what's going on around you. So yeah, does it feel good? Do you think you're getting validation from it? Well, you've been told that that's what it is, But what it is it's just that you're getting these signals from a woman that are so rare for you that it makes you feel good about yourself, and it makes you feel like you want to, you know, do things for her. You're gonna do anything you can to keep that dopamine hit going and going and going. So what that is that's your instinctual mind telling you, oh, I'm getting all these signals from this chick, but your rational mind needs to be a buffer between that before it gets to your emotional side. And I've got I'll throw the links in the chat here, but I have a series of posts. It's a series of 4 posts, and it's called Instinct, Emotion, and Reason. And men tend to prioritize it this way. We go through instinct, then we go through reason, and then we go through emotion. And that's how we are naturally wired to do that. Men and women process emotion differently. Women, on the other hand, go instinct, emotion, and then reason. But because we live in a feminine primary society, we teach our boys to try to switch that, to make them imperfect girls, right? We naturally want to go instinct, reason, and then emotion, because we don't want to, you know, we want to figure out the problem. We're deductive problem solvers. That's what we were designed to do. We got to figure out how more efficiently we can bring down the caribou and bring it back to the tribe, right? So we're trying to solve problems out in the wild all the time, whereas women are back in the tribe and they're dealing with each other because they need to nurture the next generation, and they need to cooperate with each other, and they become more naturally collectivist, and therefore they need to be more in tune with emotion. So their wiring is instinct, emotion, and reason. Men's is instinct, reason, and then emotion. But we teach our boys to pretend like they should be instinct, emotion, and then reason. You should think about how you feel about things before you think about how reasonable they are. And that is a female way of thinking. And that's really the way, you know, when I say we teach our boys as if they're, you know, defective girls, that's what I mean. We teach boys to prioritize women and womankind, and to defer to that, and to make women and womankind our mental point of origin. That's the first thing that we think about. And we should be more in touch with our emotions, because it's more perfect and it's more correct to be a woman than it is to be a man. That's what we're teaching our boys right now. And so what you're struggling with right now is because you were taught that emotion should be prioritized before reason, but your natural mind wants to prioritize instinct, reason, and then emotion. But you're getting thrown back and forth between that because you think that it's right to put emotion and say, oh, how do I feel about this? Am I validated by this? No, you're not. You're trying to figure out what you're trying to do is you're trying to figure out a reproductive problem. And you're doing this as any man would, as with deductive reasoning. You're trying to figure out how to get from point A to point B. But you have all this crap thrown in between point A and point B about, well, how should you feel about this? And how should you be validated by this? Throw everything you've ever heard of or ever known about validation, throw that out the fucking window. Okay? Get back to the way that men were naturally evolved to think. Instinct, reason, and then figure out how you feel about things. Solve the fucking problem before you decide how you feel about that problem.
All right. Ryan, you said you had something quick on this?
Yeah, I'm gonna call you Chad because I forgot your name already. It's been a while. Sorry about that. But here's the thing.
First name.
You
Chad.
made getting into a relationship the goal. So you put the onus of the goal onto the girl, and then you wonder why she screwed it up. You shouldn't want a relationship. Girls want relationships. Guys want high value women devoted to them. So work on that part. Do your mission, and the girls are a side benefit. If you look at them the same way you look at food, it's going to be way better for you in the long run. When you're not hungry, you're not hunting for crackers on the floor. It's only when you're starving that you do. So work on keeping your food together and let her come up with the reason that you want to settle down with her. That's on her anyway. And that's all I'll put it there. That's take all of Rolo's stuff, internalize it, and then map my bit to your everyday actions. And I think you'll have a far better chance of getting what you want. And make sure whatever you want doesn't involve a girl having to do something for you, because they'll screw it up every time.
Yeah, treat her like the burrito that Ryan just ate, disposable. Let's go to our next.
That was a good burrito, though. High quality.
Dude, Ev's in the kitchen making tacos, so I think I'm going to try to match you there. Caller, looks like you're calling from overseas. You are on live with the Red Man Group. Go ahead.
Hey, how are you, gentlemen? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Brilliant, brilliant. Hi guys, this is Hamad Hindawi. I'm calling you all the way from the UAE here. First off, I just want to say thank you for everything. Following all your YouTube channels. I've got the notification on the bell. I hope more guys are liking the video because I'm looking at the numbers. They're not really matching as they should. I have to say thank you for your hard work. You have no idea how many lives you're changing to the better. And always keeping it real.
Okay.
It's just, I've got two questions really, and I think Carl striked one of them earlier on by chance for me. Basically, I train like boxing, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, all this stuff, but I've just had surgery on my right shoulder, 4 surgeries last week.
Damn.
And Carl, I remember you said that you had surgery as well, if I'm not mistaken, but I just wanted to ask you, like, how part of being red pill, the mindset itself is always making sure that we're fit, that making sure that I'm doing this for myself. I'm not doing this for game or for women. I'm doing it more or less for myself, right? Because as Ryan mentioned earlier, women are just a subsidiary to the good life. They're not the target. But so the first question is, how do you keep up? How did you keep up when you were injured? Which was the main reason I was calling. The second reason, and it's got one-itis written all over it, but despite getting way better over the past 2 years and discovering the red pill, and we're more or less starting to have a community here, just 3 or 4 of us, and we're helping people who are ready to be helped. Because as Rollo said last time when I called the show, is basically you can't help people that cannot be helped, really, that they do not want to be helped or want to be unplugged from the blue pill. But basically, my problem is over the past 2 years, admittingly, I was in a long-term relationship. I walked out of it, and I haven't been able to really move since. And it shows up in really weird moments, like when the anesthesia, and I'm just screaming out her name and to come and get him, and I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with me? You know what I mean? So how do I get her out of my subconscious? It's not that she's holding me back from relationships or dating women or one-night stands or whatever, but how do I get her out of my subconscious if that's a thing?
How many...
Yeah, Carl answered the injury question. It's simple. You can't just consciously get over a girl. That's just going to take time. That's there's to it.
The only thing that could speed it up is how many girls are in between. You can literally, like how your brain is like a hard drive, mate, and there is limited space up here. I've had people come up to me. I mean, Donovan even telling me today, he's like, dude, your memory is terrible. I'm like, dude, I live a fucking action-packed life. Like, new data is always coming in. So the quickest way to get over that, and I can just tell by the way you talk, I don't think that there's been a lot of women in between then. I don't know. I mean, if you push through 25 women, right? And you're in the UAE, so there's hot like stewardesses and stuff out there. If you push through the 25 women, a few of them out of that 25, 3 at least will going to be like, okay, let me call her again because she did that one thing with her mouth.
And then you'll be over your LTR.
Okay.
Yeah, you got to push her through, pimpin'. Like you got to get your pipeline moving. You know what I mean by pipeline? That's sales technology. That's sales terminology. Like
lead.
You sexual leads. You got to have your pipeline stacked and always moving towards the chopping block, which is your dick. Always. That train never stops. That never stops. I always tell the guys, if you watch a video on my YouTube channel, it's called The Most Efficient Way to Get Sex. And I break it down into 2 points, ABS and ABC. Always be sourcing and always be closing. Always be sourcing for new women and always be closing as in taking them on dates, having sex, et cetera, et cetera. I can tell you have not been doing that because you have too much time.
Yep. You're waking up screaming her name. Oh my God, where are you?
And this is not an attack on you, brother. It's not an attack on you, but this is like,
Bro,
you're sitting around thinking about it.
I blame myself still.
So yeah, do that. And you're a warrior too. So you have the warrior's mentality, which is everything is my fault, which is a good mentality to have. But at the same time, you get her out of your system by dating more girls. Bro, let me tell you something too. If you're a pimp, you're a G like us, and you live this lifestyle, every girl that you seriously date moving forward usually just gets better and better because your tastes get more refined.
All right, so Carl, answer his first question. So how do you maintain your physical edge after surgery when you are physically impaired?
Well, I'm just going to comment on something with John just before I go into the injury question just shortly. And the one thing I want to mention there is there is an element of emotional impact as well. If this girl had a massive emotional impact on you, that's going to take a lot longer to take over. And you might find that even after 20 women, you still kind of get those subconscious flashes, but you never get rid of those. They will always be there. The mind works very strangely like that, because you can have not seen a girl for 10 years, then suddenly you smell her perfume and you remember that girl like vivid in detail. So short of getting John to show up at your place with one of those Men in Black devices and flashing you in the face, I don't think you'll ever get completely past those situations. But your goal is just to get to the point where it doesn't emotionally impact you. Secondly, for the shoulder thing, it depends a little bit on what shoulder you had. I found that maintain your diet. I mean, that's the most important part, because you won't be able to lift anything for a long time after having shoulder surgery. I mean, my orthopedic surgeon, he told me to keep my arm moving. He even had me hooked up to this weird device that rotated my shoulder for like 40 minutes a day or something, just to kind of keep it active while it was healing. But since you're not going to be able to lift, you're going to have to maintain your diet. Make sure you're getting enough protein. Make sure you're not taking in excess calories and getting fat. I would recommend doing some light, low-impact cardio, like walking, just to keep your conditioning up. I mean, the reason why I say walking instead of biking or running is that you usually end up moving your arm when you're biking or running or leaning on your arms, which is going to put pressure on that shoulder joint. So it's just a matter of trying to maintain what you've already built, so that when you're able to start lifting again and doing jujitsu and everything, you won't have a long way to go to fix everything back up again. Because if you gain 50 pounds of fat, you're going to have to go on like a year-long cut to get rid of it. And that's just going to slow you down even more. So it's more about maintenance than anything at this point, and just accept that you're going to take a hit. Like, I'm still off a few exercises that I don't do. And just the most important thing to take away from it is whatever you did when you got injured, I don't care if you were bench pressing, if you were testing out arm bars, if you banged a fat girl and she fell asleep on your arm and ripped the arm out of the socket when you turned over, I don't care. Just don't do it again. I mean, that's the good thing about injuries. Good thing with injuries, you learn things you're not supposed to do.
Yeah, very quickly, I might add.
Yeah, I just injured my pectoral. I know it's a complete different one, and I'm just getting back into the swing of things. And I'll 100% tell you, like, especially if I still haven't gained, it's inevitable. You are going to get a little bit fatter. I mean, probably happened to you as well, Carl. I mean, I suck at watching my diet. The only reason I go to the gym is so I can eat like an animal. And I ripped my pectoral in October, and it just got better in April. But it was a long time off, and like I'm now, dude, I'm barely repping 135. It's pathetic, but it's just inevitable. And being I do jujitsu and Muay Thai and all that shit as well. So injuries are definitely part of our game as well. So you just got to take this one on the chin. And like what Carl said is where I personally failed miserably is maintaining your diet, because I was like Thor in Endgame. I was just like, fuck it, I'm just gonna eat and play video games. So that's what I did.
There's some guys in the chat who are giving some great advice too. Look into body weight training. You can do a lot of like squat movements and lunges with just your body weight that won't aggravate that shoulder. And you should always, I like to use body weight movements to recover, because I'm not sure if you lift, but if you do, it's much easier if you do like 6 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever of just pure body weight movements before you get into the weights.
Okay, good. That's actually very good advice. I was at a loss because I was like, dude, because I've had injuries too, and I'm like, what do I tell this guy? All right, let's move to the next caller. Area code 647. You are on live with the Red Man Group. Go ahead.
You guys can hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, so I originally came into the stream with 2 questions, but after hearing Carl talk, I have an extra question. So I'll start off.
This is Andy from Canada, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Andy,
okay.
how's it going, eh? Right on, bud. after this, grab a dart and we'll answer the questions best we can for you.
Ryan got all perked up, man. I like that. It's good stuff.
Andy's a student of my body language mastery course, so I know his voice very well. Go ahead.
Okay. So earlier in the stream, Carl was talking about comfort and attraction. So I'm just wondering, with women that are like sluts, or maybe women when you sleep with a woman with one night stands, do you have to show some level of comfort traits with that woman?
Like, what do you mean? Give us an example.
No. Way too early for that, man. But go ahead, do your examples.
Oh, well, I was just saying, like, do you have to, like, for example, like maybe listen to her a little bit?
Oh, fuck.
Like, I'm not saying treat her like a girlfriend, but I've shown a little bit of interest and whatnot.
Nope. Listen, you showed her interest when you stuck your dick in her. That's all she deserves. Carl, you said you had something on this, and then we'll hit Ryan. Go ahead, Carl.
Yeah, you need to have a tiny bit of comfort with one night stands just to avoid the whole Me Too situation. And because you take her home, you bang her then, and then a little bit of comfort on the way out so she doesn't feel like you just used her to masturbate. That helps kind of a bit with not getting any sore feelings on the after effects. So it's not like you need to cook her dinner and have a candlelight dinner for her and give her a massage and draw a bath for her, or, as Stedman calls it, a first date. But what you have to do is, afterwards, maybe cuddle her for like 5-10 minutes before you get out of bed. Don't get directly out of bed, put your clothes on and say, buy whatever your name is and walk out the door. Well, you can do that. If you gave her a fake name and she doesn't have your number, you can do that. But if you're at your place, then just do the tiniest bit of comfort. Like, don't run out or kick her out right after you come. That just makes the girl that just pisses her off. And if you decide later that, hey, I'd like to sleep with this girl again, you pretty much close that door.
Yep. Sometimes treating a one night stand like a one night stand, you're probably not going to fuck her again. Because one thing that a lot of guys have to understand is that something that's very important to sluts is that you shouldn't make them feel like a slut. That hamster is going off in the back of their minds. They know they're sluts, right? They're playing the game. But if you show them that they're sluts by treating her the way that sluts only deserve to be treated, which is like sluts, then she's not going to give you her sluttiness anymore. She's going to go to some guy who's going to play the game and pretend that he actually cares a little bit about how she feels, right? Like, listen, I'm going to use you as I'm not going to use you as a cum dumpster. I'm going to use you as a cum dumpster that I might like outside of sex for about a minute and a half. So don't go extreme red pill on that. And I would also say that is you'll avoid a lot of false rape accusations this way as well. Because if a girl feels guilted by you in any way, she knows that all she has to do is blow the whistle and say, oh, he raped me, and then you're in for a world of hurt. So one thing that I recommend to my guys is I tell them, listen, man, make sure you send her the morning after text. Hey, I had a great time. I look forward to doing it again. If she responds with, yeah, me too, let's hook up again, then that's evidence that you can use if she does decide to pull that rape accusation whistle on you.
And that's some gangster advice right there. I got to put a stamp on that. Donovan is 100% with that follow-up text, because once you hit them, that follow-up text, hey baby, it was nice seeing you. AKA,
now,
hey, honey, you're not a slut. You're not a slut. Let's do it again. You're
telling them you're not a slut, right? And she's gonna say, right. You want to come over and watch a movie? Sure, I'll pick the title.
Let's pick up whatever long ass series we put on the last time.
Yeah, exactly. But again, girls need that plausible deniability, caller or Andy. And when I say plausible deniability, they need to be able to tell themselves and their friends, God, well, why did you fuck Donovan on the first date? Right? Well, he was just so charming, and that there was nothing I could do. And listen, he said he wanted me to come up to his place to watch underwater basket weaving videos, and I just couldn't resist that. One thing led to another, girl. You know how it goes, and we ended up fucking. Not something I normally do, but Donovan was just so smooth, and I was drunk, and this and that and the other. That's that plausible deniability. I didn't want to fuck him at first, but that underwater basket weaving video collection really did the trick for me. My weakness for those kinds of videos. That's what we're talking about.
Okay, so I have two more questions.
Whoa,
Actually,
two more questions. Hold on, caller. Hold on, two more questions. We're really running. We're up against the clock here. We still have to get to our super chat here. So I appreciate the call, Andy. You know Ryan, you know Jonathan. Definitely hit them up really quickly, guys. Before we bring this thing to an end here, got some super chats here to call out. Chris Von Erich with the $25 super chat says charging $25 to the game. Keep up the great work, guys. Freelance Ronan with the $5 super chat says drop it into the tip jar, gentlemen. Freelance Ronan says you're all dropping jewels, gentlemen. Salute. And Mick Inks with the $1.99 super chat. I'm going to end today's show with Rob Brown's $5 super chat, and we can do sort of a round robin rapid fire answer to sort of end the show with our little fireworks display. Rob Brown wants to know any tips for getting over a fear of spinning plates. I have the confidence and looks to do it, but actually doing it is a different story. I
guess you don't have the confidence after all.
Fear. I understand that question, the fear of spinning plates. So you're telling me that you're afraid to be banging more than one girl at the same time? I don't understand that. I don't know. Ryan, tell me what that question really asks.
Just go screw it up. He's scared of a consequence, but if you ask him to articulate it, he will probably fumble around and come up with some post hoc rationalization. Just go screw it up. You're going to screw it up and then just learn from it. It won't end the world. You're not going to ruin any girls. Guaranteed, if they're having sex with you at this point, you're not there first. You're not that good. So that's the best I can offer with that. And I'm sure the answer is good if you follow it.
Jonathan, what you got?
I don't even know what to say. I mean, well, okay, yeah, I guess he sounds like a smart guy. So it could theoretically be that he is just overwhelmed because, like, a lot of guys, what they do is when I do my consultations, right? A lot of guys, they approach a girl and they freak out when they approach the girl because they think they're in their mind like, oh my God, she knows I want sex. She knows I want sex. How am I going to do this? And they like crush themselves with so much pressure. But you got to break the seduction down into multiple stages of increasing comfort, which eventually leads to isolation and penetration, right? So don't be so afraid of doing this. Take a large task and methodically break it down. And
methodically?
Huh?
Did you say methodically?
Yeah, he's got some good linguistications.
I love it.
Yeah. Whatever. Dude, it's funny. You live in Japan. You live in Japan, and your English gets worse. It's fucking hilarious.
It's Japan's fault. We get it.
It is. Trust me. Come live here. You'll understand. Anyways,
you're talking in English.
But there needs to be a methodology. That's what I meant to say. There needs to be a methodology to your approach, and you break it down into 4 stages. And once you have stage 1 completely mastered, then you go from stage 1 to stage 2. Stage 2 to stage 3, and then stage 4 is sex. And then once you have that process streamlined and mastered, then you apply it on a mass approach basis regarding multiple women. And then that's how the girls who like you, who think you're funny, who enjoy the sex, which is a huge part of it, that they will keep you around and they'll stick around as a plate. And the ones that don't, hey, then they're going to go back. They're going to go scamper off into the wild and do what they got to do. So break it down from very large into something small. I think the caller is just overwhelmed. You need a coach. You need a teacher. You need someone to break it down. You can't get all this information. I mean, you could do it like Ryan, but I'm pretty sure it took Ryan a very long time to figure this shit out compared to if you had a coach.
Yeah, but great stories.
but my coach is like guys like us, like Donovan and I, and whoever, like we could probably get you turned around in 3 months max.
Easy. Okay, so Carl, a little bit of an update here. He says he lives in a small town. Rob Brown says he lives in a small town. That's why he's afraid to spin plates. So what do you think when he says that?
Oh, I see the issue. So I'll let John get back to his flight lice, and I'll just answer the question. So what I was getting at is if he lives in a small town, you're going to have certain issues with spinning plates, especially if it's like a real small town, like, you know, the 2-horse town that Ryan grew up in. It was like 3,500 people. Spinning plates in a town where like every girl went to school together. That's a difficult proposition because you're going to end up with all of the girls know who's fucking who. So they know that you're banging more than one of them. And that's going to be difficult. So that type of game, I tend to think you need at least a population of a couple of 100,000 people just to be able to do that, where you need to hop between small towns. So you got like a chick in each one of the surrounding towns. Because doing it in one town is kind of you can do it. I mean, it's been done before, but it's just a very difficult thing to do, because not only are you going to have a lot of girls that are perfectly aware of what you're doing, and you're going to get a rep that prevents you from getting any other girls very quickly, but you're also going to have all the dudes in that town who are not getting laid, hating on you very hard and trying to cock block you. So I get where you're coming from with that, and it's no easy way of doing that except moving.
Good stuff, man. Good answer. Rolo, close us out here, man. What's your advice for Rob Brown, who lives in a small town and is afraid to spin plates?
He's afraid to spin plates in a small town. Now, this is most likely because he believes in a localized sexual marketplace. He thinks that he says something that it's gonna get around, or I get this a lot from this is the thing about MGTOWs. When MGTOWs say something like, well, it's too risky. It's too risky to get with a chick because it's Me Too, and if you do the wrong thing, you say the wrong thing, or you catch her on the wrong day, or if she ate the fucking fish instead of the chicken, she's going to get you on Me Too, right? You're done, man. You're just done. I mean, look at Tony Robbins. Fuck, Tony Robbins is getting his ass handed to him because he actually tried to apologize for speaking his mind and actually saying something honest about Me Too. So if a guy like Tony Robbins can get it, well, what hope do you have? So it's just better to just turn everything off and say fuck it. Right?
Is Tony Robbins red pill, do you think?
What's that? No.
Do you think
not even in the slightest is Tony Robbins red pill?
That's what I thought. I just wanted to get verification.
Anybody wants to challenge me? Tony Robbins, you can argue whether or not he's alpha or not, but he's definitely
because you're a male does not mean you're red pill. Go ahead, Roland.
Yeah. So anyway, that's just to say is so this is the small thinking. This is small thinking right here, okay? Because first of all, the internet opens you up to a much larger global sexual marketplace anyways. And just because you're gaming chicks in your social circle in a very small localized sexual marketplace, that right there is kind of an evidence of small thinking. You don't have to game chicks that are in your local town. I mean, get out of there, go do something else, go, do something. In fact, I would suggest that any guy who has this mentality that they have to stay in the same city that they went to high school in and never really moved beyond their sort of adolescent social skill set and their adolescent social circle that they grew up in. You need to break out of that localized way of thinking. So that's the first thing. The other thing is you have to understand that spinning plates is not just about nailing as many chicks as you possibly can. It's about much more than that. It's opening yourself up to different possibilities, opening yourself up to different opportunities. It's also an insurance against getting one-itis or getting, being, locked into the soulmate myth. That's what guys do. I could never spin plates because, and then they'll make up every reason why they can't do that. They'll say, well, logistically it's a nightmare. I can't do it. Or I live in a small town. I could never do that. Or I just don't feel that way. I respect women. I could never be with more than one woman at a time, kind of thing. And so they have all of these reasons why they shouldn't do it, but they don't realize that there are reasons why they should be doing it. And the primary one is that it helps you experience more women so that first of all, you're better judge a character about them. And then second of all, to give you that experience later on, so you know what you want and what you don't want out of a relationship. So if you're going to try to work out a one night stand or something like that, or there's the guys here have been giving you some pretty good advice, so I'm not going to repeat what they've said, but think about this in a larger picture. You owe it to yourself to spin plates. Really, I think most guys do. Again, it's most men don't get to do this. Most men are locked. The male sexual strategy is like I said, unlimited access to unlimited sexuality, but most men can't do that.
Right.
They would like to. That's why porn fills that need. They would like to be able to do that. So porn ends up being the plates that they're spinning, right? They oh, I'm gonna check out this niche of porn, and oh, look, here's a midget. I'm gonna be into that today, or tomorrow I'm gonna be into fat chicks, and tomorrow, the day after that, it's gonna be skinny, spinner white girls, whatever. That's their way of spinning plates. You're gonna spin plates whether you like it or not. It's just, are you going to make the most of it, and are you going to learn from it? Because I was just talking to Pat Campbell about how 85%, we were looking at these stats, that 85% of Christian men admit to having like a porn habit. They're spinning plates. They're just doing it on their computer.
Fantasy football for porn.
yeah. Those are their plates, because it's safer to do that than it is to believe that maybe they would be able to do something. Maybe they should be actually spinning plates in real life. It's better to spin virtual plates, or maybe you're going to buy like 3 different sex dolls, and those are the girls you're spinning, because that's what you're all about. You're going to want that variety. You're going to want that in some way. So why not exercise that in as healthy a way as you possibly can, and use it to your advantage, and be, have it benefit you rather than like be a detriment to you. I'm not saying you have to fuck every plate that you're spinning, but you want to have them as possibilities. You want to have them as options. So just because you have a girl as an option doesn't necessarily mean you're nailing her. Guys also think, well, if I was spinning plates, then any girl that I was really with would leave me. I would never do something like that, because it would be a betrayal of trust. Well, if you're in that situation, you're not spinning plates anyways, because all you're doing is you've got this one chick who's your special snowflake girl, and then you think you're gonna, have chicks on the side. Most guys won't even do that. Most guys can't do that. They don't have the sexual market value to do that. They don't have the belief.
Can't is very strong one there. They cannot do that.
There's a and I've written about this in at least 3 different posts recently. It is called strategic pluralism theory, and what that is it is the idea that men who have higher sexual market value, guys who are of a higher desirability, have more of a capacity to go and have, and it's beneficial for them to do this, is they have more of a capacity to go and be with many women and exercise and embrace really their nature of having unlimited access to unlimited sex, right? So you've got guys like that, and we call those guys alphas, because they're naturals and they can do that. And then you've got the rest of the guys, which we talk about this as conservatively. We say this is the 80-20 rule. This is the Pareto principle. So 80% of guys are of lower sexual desirability, and those are the guys who have to, by necessity, invest in one chick. They have to do that because they got to find the one girl that actually likes them, or they got to find their one little perfect little snowflake. And that's how you get one-itis. And that's how you get the soulmate myth, because these guys that has to be part of their ideology. It has to be part of their spiritual, religious understanding of themselves, because it's a necessity for them to do that. It's all necessity. And so they make a virtue of their necessity. And that necessity is, I've got to invest all of my sexual market value eggs in one basket. I've got to stick with this one girl, because if I don't have that many opportunities outside of her. And so they turn her into this mythical beast, right? They turn her into the magical snowflake, the magical unicorn, the magical soulmate. There's only one, and they set themselves up for disaster later on. And so when a guy tells me this, well, I don't want to spin plates because it's, and you look for X, Y, and Z excuses as to why you can't do that. Usually it's because you're one of those guys, according to sexual pluralism theory, is you just don't have the capacity to do that. So you've got to find ways to rationalize for yourself why you're not doing that, why you're better than guys who do that. Because You don't have that option. You don't have that option. And given that, it's funny because the same guys who will say, I'm a one woman guy. I would never sleep with her because my woman would leave me. Any self-respecting woman would leave any man who was, spinning plates and stuff like that. And then
spoken from ignorance.
Yeah,
Spoken from ignorance.
Off the porn.
Yeah, has he seen it or is he just assuming?
Well, he actually just said in the chat, he says, I'm divorced, and so lots of women are wanting to lock me down.
Cheating is like super glue for girls.
So the only thing that is holding this dude back is his own mentality. It's like if you have chicks and you're divorced and you have chicks that want to come that want to get with you, and you're like, no, I'm a one woman man. Oh, that's because you were taught when you were a little boy, don't cheat, don't do this, don't do that. Don't be a good boy. Don't if you have that capacity, it behooves the feminine imperative to teach alpha men to be monogamous, because it locks that guy down with one girl, and it's not, they want him to believe that he should be monogamous, and locks them into her sexual strategy, which is, find the best, that alpha fucks and beta bucks. Find the guy who is also alpha, who is also, has alpha fucks and beta bucks, has both sides of the hypergamous equation. And if you can convince a guy that it is his like Christian duty to do that, so much the better. And then that also benefits guys who are beta and can't do that, because it means it removes one more guy from the sexual market pool, right? So think about it this way. Whenever you're thinking about plate spinning or not being non-exclusive, the point of that whole thing is you're taught that from a very early age that that's the correct way to do it, because it's one more aspect of teaching boys to prioritize the needs and the imperatives of women. That's why I call it the feminine imperative. So you will do naturally. So you will convince yourself and believe. That's why we call it blue pill conditioning, because it is conditioning you to think these things are your own ideas, and they're not your own ideas. They're somebody else's ideas, and they're usually not in your best interest, but you think that they are, and you're proud that they are, and you're proud to say, well, I would never do something like that, right? Well, you don't even know why you think that way, but you're proud of thinking that way. And really, that's what the red pill does, is it wakes you up to those things. So those are something to think about.
Excellent. Well said, Rollo Tomasi. So we're going to go ahead and end the show. We're going to find out what everybody is working on here for this upcoming week. Carl, what are you working on this coming up week?
Well, I'm going to be putting out another essay. I'm still working on it, but it's something that I've had in my draft folder for a while, because I think it's time to get back to nuts and bolts. So I have two essays that I'm really working on, and one is about the idea of tailoring game and how to make game and red pill thinking your own, and the other one deals with empathy as it relates to the red pilling game, because I'm hearing way too many guys argue that the red pill lifestyle requires you to be a psychopath, and fair enough, I've been called one a few thousand times by now, but I think it's important to know what is empathy, and what is it that people say when they say that you need to be more empathic, because a lot of the time those are two very different things. So, and I'm doing Red Mornings with Ryan next Saturday. We still haven't landed on a topic, and I'm going on the post show with you and Steve Devine. So that's what I'm working on this week.
All right, excellent. Ryan, what are you up to this week?
Hat done block. Big one there. So I made a little story. I basically sit on so many sunglasses and lose them over the year. I actually have to get like a custom bunch built, and I get them sent over in packs. I ordered 15 now, and I threw a bunch on my website. So 10 out of them. I think I can get through 5 this summer. So if other guys want my Wayfarers, check out my store on my site, ryanstone.com. Go in there. If you're attached to my email list, and Donovan put the link out before, I'll probably put it out again. I put a discount code in there. I cover the shipping, and I think I throw $10 off of it too. It's pretty much at cost, because the email guys are the bread and butter. It's where I do most of the work, and they're the guys that have supported me since the start. So I always love throwing love out to them whenever I can. Beyond that, just threw a video out on pate and chore play. Suggest you give it a good read. It's great if you're tired of choking back protein shakes every day. It's a nice sense of protein in there that's a little bit quicker and easier if you're busy on the time. Plus, you got to get a little dirty, kind of like dealing with your wife wanting cold or chore play without having sex.
Play.
And on the final part of that, Red Mornings with Carl. And I just had one of my clients move on, so I've got space for my male action plan. I'm going to put out a deal to that one shortly for a limited time. That's going to be on the email list. That's ryanstone.com/newsletter. It's going to be a great deal on it. I think I'm going to throw about like $150 off of it, because as much as I love getting what I'm worth out there, I am really working hard to reach as many men as I can to unfuck their lives. And so in this case, I've had a space and I want to fill it. And then as always, if you're just 90% of the way there and you want to ping an hour off of me, I could put you on the roadmap to a lot of good stuff to read, a lot of planning. Have yourself held accountable. I've got my one-off consulting sessions. I'm going to put a little deal on that one too, because next week I want to buckle down and get a whole bunch of work done. So I'm going to put a little discount code in that. Again, it's all the email list. So if you don't follow me there, follow now. That's where you hear all this stuff that I'm giving you pithy little quotes on now, where I articulate it. It's more valuable than the blog. It's more valuable than the show. It's more valuable than anything. And that's that. I'm out.
All right, good stuff. MLD, what's going on with you this upcoming week?
Okay, so as you guys know, I went to Vietnam and I went back from vacation, a little bit more chilled out now. But body language mastery Q2 enrollment is starting on June 28th, June 29th, and June 30th, with July 1st and July 2nd. So this is when you get into, I'll spam the chat right there for you guys to click on the link to get on the waiting list. This is a head-to-toe breakdown of the human female body language that allows you to interpret whether she is sexually interested in you or not. This saves you time and money on dates and emotional frustration, and you'll just be able to look at a woman and know what she's thinking without even listening to her words, or more importantly, spot incongruences with what she's saying and like her different type of gestures. All the men on this panel have, especially Donovan, has watched the quality and the production of this. It's got Rolo's stamp. I mean, this is the real deal. You get 1 hour of the course, right? Plus, after the course is released, so 1 week from July 2nd, we begin the webinars. And that is a webinar in the morning and a webinar at night, where you come into a Google Hangouts like this, you and 10 other guys, and we have a question and answer session where I answer all your questions and answers in regards to the information in the body language course. And we had all sorts of like people come through, like Carl came through and gave some consultation, which I don't even think Carl does consultations, but he did some consultations with a group of guys. Ryan came through, Steve the Dean came through, Rich Cooper came through, a whole bunch of people came through.
Yeah, you had a good group of guys there. It was pretty fun.
Yeah, and I do that. I did that with 100+ guys. And to top it all off, third is you get access into the men's only Modern Life Mastermind group. All right, it's a Facebook group, men only, and we talk about everything. We're right now, if you guys have been watching Bitcoin, guys in my group have already made couple thousands of dollars each. So we do everything man related: fitness, health, relationships, sex, Tinder, profile optimization, sports here, there, but it's more question and answer. It's basically like a red pill Google. You have like a red pill question, you type it in, and then you have like an army of animals that are just in there, like hitting you with the real deal red pill truths. In order to get into this group as well, you have to join my course, which is $397. And the price is going up in Q2, and it's going up in Q4 or Q3, and it's going up in Q4. And in order to get in, you have to have a Skype consultation with me where I personally vet you. So this group is 100% safe, and it's a huge investment. Definitely looking forward to everybody. So click the link on the information I just sent out to the chat, and I'll send it again. Get in with us, and we will make it happen.
Okay, well said. Rolo, what you got coming on this upcoming week?
Let's see, what do I have coming up? Well, tomorrow I'm going to be doing Red Pill 101 with Pat. I don't know what our topic is at this point. We've been discussing a couple of ideas. We might actually talk a little bit about what we talked about on Friday. Friday's show was really excellent. We got into issues of whether or not pornography was something that should be a divorceable offense for Christian women right now.
Oh, yes.
I got into kind of, I don't want to say it was a Twitter battle, because I really do, and I mean it when I say this. I have a great deal of respect for Dr. Everett Piper. I do. But, sometimes we lock horns, and this was one of those times. And so he came on ahead of me. He's usually on the hour before I am on Pat's terrestrial show. And then I came on, and we just both kind of had our say about this thing. I think Dr. Piper is sort of, now that he's no longer the president of Wesleyan University, he is becoming a little bit more aware of how things are in the Twitterverse of the manosphere and other things right now. It's not like I'm trying to drag him into the manosphere. I don't think that's ever going to happen, but I think he's becoming a little bit more socially savvy as far as like church culture and how it relates with the red pill, because as everybody knows, I am writing book 4 right now, which is Red Pill and Religion. It's not going to be called Red Pill and Religion. It's just the operating title right now. So I am working on that. I'm deep in the weeds in that. And if anybody's noticing that I'm only like posting like once every week and a half or 2 weeks on my blog, that's why, because I'm focusing a lot of my writing time on the book right now. I'm resisting the itch to actually go on some sort of hiatus on my blog or my. I'm never going to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't believe I've been writing on the Rational Mail since 2011, and I have never taken a sabbatical. I've never taken a hiatus of any kind. I've always produced at least one essay per week, and the longest I've ever gone has been like 2 weeks, I think. But it's my time is really divided, because this book is really involved, because there's a lot of statistics and there's a lot of research and there's a lot of things that go into this, and it's not just me like copy and pasting over old blog posts and then rewriting them to fit into a book format. It's actually me doing a real, and like none of the material in this book, with the exception of maybe just like a handful of blog posts, and most of the material in this book is going to be all original material. So you won't be able to get it anywhere else. This isn't going to be one of those books where it's like, oh, go to my site and you get all this stuff for free. No, not this one, baby. This is going to be a real. You're gonna have to buy the book if you want to read this stuff.
Okay.
And I don't try to make me feel bad about it, because I do not feel bad about it.
It's books off.
And what else do I have going on? I don't know if I have an interview this week. I need to look at my schedule, but I've got some other guys, and I've got some other things, some irons in the fire that you guys will find out later on this week. But if you want to check out Red Pill and Religion, I'm going to probably do something in the upcoming week with Red Pill and Religion. And then, like I said, tomorrow it's just me and Pat. That is at 4:30 Eastern. Just look on my YouTube channel, and there you go.
Excellent. I've actually got a pretty busy week coming up. I'm actually going to be releasing. It's not necessarily a course. It's just a compilation of all of the. I had a how to build a red pill woman week on my show, and what I'm doing is I'm actually going to make a compilation of both the video and the audio of everything all week long. I talked about the vetting process, punishment, and punishing a woman versus punishing bad behavior, rewarding good behavior. I talked about sex, how to dominate a woman in bed, both mentally and physically. Of course, I talked about how to keep shit from going sideways. It is everything you need to know from A to Z on how to build and maintain a red pill woman. So be sure to look out for that. After this, I've got the Red Man Group after party, but before I do that, I'm going to scarf these tacos down here in about 15 minutes. So be sure to stay tuned for the Red Man Group after parties with myself, Carl Black Label Logic, and Steve the Dean. That's going to start here at 2:15 Eastern Standard Time, a little later than we had originally planned. But just gotta hit the reset button and we'll come back. That show is gonna be an hour. I don't go for 2 hours or 3 hours on that stuff because I spend a lot of time on the air. Next week, I've got a few topics I'm gonna be discussing on my show. I'm on the air Tuesday through Thursdays at 1 Eastern live on my YouTube channel. So you guys be sure and go check that out. I'm gonna be discussing why men and women cannot be friends. I'm going to talk about the difference between a mother and a mom. Then I'm also going to talk about the difference between buying a female's loyalty and investing in her. In the Black community, that's tricking versus investing. On the Patreon side, my exclusive content, I'm going to release a video series, Why Women Keep Cheating on You, how to handle getting caught cheating, and when not to go on a first date with a woman. So I've got a lot of things coming up this week, got a lot of projects I'm working on. So it looks like we're going to be pretty busy there. One last shout out here to the good John with the $5 super chat. He says, life is a learning process. You make mistakes and learn from them. Just don't be afraid of making mistakes. By the way, no FAP will help with your confidence. I could not agree more. That's going to do it for episode 66 of the Red Man Group. Be sure to subscribe to all of our YouTube channels, all of our patrons, and we will see you right back here next week. Peace.